Chapter 3295. Whoosh, whoosh. As soon as he stepped onto the first step, the scenery around him changed drastically and he fell into a space-time dimension. Shocking shackles enveloped Su Fong as the star sand danced wildly and swept towards Su Fong from all directions. Every grain of star sand contained a cold and deathly silent energy. Countless star sand gathered together. It seemed chaotic, but in fact, the star sand was arranged and moved in an extremely strange and mysterious way. It contained the laws of the heavenly Tao. The star sand was like a tide, containing the heavenly Tao's principles that rose and fell endlessly as it enveloped the entire space-time dimension. With such a shocking attack, ordinary Tao lords would be instantly swallowed by the star sand once they entered the space-time dimension, and everything would be torn apart. That was even the powerful Daozu would find it difficult to escape after being trapped in this space-time dimension, and would be exhausted to death in the end. How can this be a problem for me, Su Fong? Su Fong smiled faintly. Such a test couldn't pose any threat to him. He moved his mind. A murderous sword chi slashed out and instantly shattered the space-time dimension. It immediately started to collapse, and everything around him returned to normal. Su Fong took a step forward and teleported himself onto the second step. Chi, chi, chi. The sky was filled with sword chi. The space-time dimension on the second step was actually created by Su Fong's sword Dao. Break, Su Fong said. Fong released his Xian Huang Dharma body and the six-colored pagoda immediately erupted with six terrifying divine powers, shattering the sword chi, star sand and even the entire space-time dimension. Just like that, Su Fong was like a hot knife through butter as he walked up the stairs step by step. The first 1,000 Tao space-time dimensions posed almost no difficulty to Su Fong or the Divine Lords of 10 Directions. From looking from the outside of Sky Pass Island, the two of them were walking up the steps as if they were flying and almost didn't encounter any obstacles. Tong. The elites of the 10,000 races outside Sky Pass Island started to become restless and started to discuss. A Daozu expert from the Yemo race snorted and said, "Who would have thought that the legendary eternal path of heavens would be so easy? If I had known earlier, I would have taken the risk to try the eternal heavenly road. Who knows, I might have been able to shock the heavens." Daozu of the stellar race snorted and said, "If the eternal heavens road was so easy, it wouldn't be so famous, and there wouldn't be so many peerless geniuses falling on it." The reason Su Fong and Divine Lord 10 Directions could move so quickly was not because of the eternal heavenly road's undeserved reputation, but because they were too strong. For Su Fong to be able to pass through the starry sky 10,000 arts path, how could he be an ordinary person? One of the Tensei people, Daozu, retorted bluntly, "The first 1,000 great Daos are just low-end great Daos. Don't be fooled by their prestige now. Let's see how they can show off after the 2,000 great Daos." No one believed that Su Fong and the Divine Lord of 10 Directions would be able to complete the eternal heavenly road. Even the cultivators of the stellar race who had witnessed Su Fong passing through the 365 starry skies of the path of 10,000 arts could not be sure. On Clear Sky Island, middle, at the peak of the central mountain, in front of the thatched cottage, the elder opened his eyes, shook his head, and sighed. He closed his eyes again and said lazily, "You want to complete the eternal heavenly road with brute force? Looks like there will be 2 more short-lived ghosts on the eternal heavenly road." Time passed. 100, 300, 500, about 3 months later. 10. Divine Lord Fong and Su Fong passed through the steps, shattering space-time one after another. The Divine Lord of 10 Directions was always ahead of Su Fong, and his momentum and speed seemed to surpass Su Fong's. It was not until they passed the 1,000th step that the trials they encountered became more and more difficult, and their speed of advancement slowed down. 10. Divine Lord Fong was still far ahead, and his speed was much faster than before compared to Su Fong. After shattering space-time, Fong entered the next step. Rumble. Star sand fell from the sky like a waterfall and piled up on the ground, forming a vast and boundless land. A terrifying gravity burst out from the ground and shackled Su Fang, trying to drag him into the ground and crush his Tao palace and physical body. This is a branch of the great Tao of Earth, the great Tao of Earth. Fang raised his eyebrows and released primordial energy to form a defense around him, isolating himself from the gravity and the falling star sand. Earth. The space-time created by Fang's great Tao of Earth was not a threat to Su Fang, but his brows were still furrowed. It's not difficult to shatter this space-time, but there's still more than half of the journey ahead, and it'll get harder and harder. I can't shatter all the space-time. In the end, I'll be exhausted to death on the eternal heavenly road. I can't go on like this. An individual's strength is limited, after all. Even immortal realm experts can't last until the end if they want to shatter the space-time of the 3,000 great Taos. The immortal realm experts of the Eternal Temple created the Eternal Heavenly Road, so there's definitely a chance to pass it. It's just that the cultivators who tried the Eternal Heavenly Road in the past didn't find the right method. I have to calm down and find the most effective method. Only then can I complete the Eternal Heavenly Road. What's the most effective method? Su Fang pondered for a while, and his destiny avatar began to deduce. About half an hour later, Su Fang's eyes flashed, and his gaze became spirited. When I was talking with the Immortal Realm expert guarding Tongtian Island, he said that the Eternal Heavenly Road doesn't just test one's strength, but more importantly, one's great Tao and one's mastery of the great Tao's true essence. Therefore, it's impossible to complete the Eternal Heavenly Road with just one's strength. The only way is to borrow strength to fight strength. After the Destiny Avatar's deduction, Su Fang finally found the most effective method. The only way to pass through the Eternal Heavenly Road was to borrow strength to fight strength. Using one's own great Tao as a guide, fusing the heavenly Tao contained in each spacetime, gathering the energy in the spacetime, and then exploding it, finally shattering the spacetime. Using the power of the Eternal Heavenly Road to break the layers of great Tao spacetime of the Eternal Heavenly Road was the best method. Su Fang now understood why there were so many peerless characters. According to the immortal powerhouse guarding Clear Sky Island, there were even peerless geniuses who had the strength to shake immortals. But in the end, they all died in the Eternal Heaven's Road. The method Fang deduced was the only way to pass through the Eternal Heavenly Road. It wasn't that no one had thought of it before. But even if they thought of it, it was difficult to do. Great Tao, there were thousands of great Taos, and no cultivator could master all of them. Also only by cultivating the Supreme Heaven Tao, the so-called Primordial Grand Tao, and it stood above the myriad of Grand Taos and contained the myriad of Grand Taos. Moreover, one had to grasp the true essence of the Supreme Heaven Tao and possess a sufficient cultivation realm would one be able to fuse the 3,000 Grand Tao profundities and destroy the layers of space. I cultivate the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra and have cultivated it to the 8th level. Only I can complete the Eternal Heavenly Road. Su Fang's face was filled with pride. He immediately retracted his primordial aura and removed his defense. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Star sand fell from the sky and struck Su Fang, seeping into Su Fang's body and Tao Palace, trying to seal his physical body and Tao Palace. Boom, boom, boom. Below and around him, there was a heavy gravity that was trying to crush his physical body and Tao Palace into meat paste. There was also a terrifying willpower that was trying to crush Su Fang's willpower. This was also the reason why many cultivators failed to pass through the Eternal Heavenly Road. Many people didn't even have to fuse the heavenly Tao contained in spacetime before their physical body, Tao Palace, and Tao Heart couldn't bear it. However, how sturdy was Su Fang's Tao Palace? How strong was his physical body? He also had an immortal Tao Heart. Although Fang's spacetime trial was shocking, it wasn't a problem for Su Fang. It couldn't shake his Tao Palace, Tao Heart, and physical body. Some of the star sand that seeped into Su Fang's body was also absorbed by Su Fang's primordial aura. At this time, Su Fang circulated the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra, constantly releasing his willpower and thoughts into spacetime to fuse and control the heavenly Tao contained in spacetime. At this moment, he was like a supreme heavenly Tao that could contain everything. There was no need to resist it directly. Instead, he could fuse with it with his own great Tao. Hold after 6 hours. Break. Su Fang's thoughts moved. Boom. The ground in spacetime collapsed, and the star sand danced wildly. Finally, the entire spacetime shattered. This works. Although it takes a long time, the energy consumed is less than 1% of the previous time. Su Fang exclaimed. The corners of Fang's mouth curled up, revealing a confident smile. Embrace with the Destiny Dharma body, he could control his own fate and future, finding a sliver of hope in the impossible. Cultivate by using the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra and grasping the true essence of the Supreme Heavenly Tao, Su Fang had the ability and strength to make the impossible possible. Su Fang had been delayed for a long time. Originally, he had been less than 10 steps away from the Divine Lord of 10 Directions, but now the gap had widened to more than 20 steps. The Divine Lord of 10 Directions turned to Su Fang and mocked. Su Fang, didn't you want to surpass me? Why are you being trampled under my feet now? Evil and smug laughter echoed through the eternal heavenly road. Su Fang looked at the Divine Lord of 10 Directions and gave an embarrassed smile, looking at him like he was looking at a dead man. Divine Lord Fang was indeed very strong, but unfortunately, he was only the evil corpse of the Divine Lord of 10 Directions. It was impossible for him to pass through the eternal heavenly road. But now, he was so arrogant and smug. It was truly laughable. He's not even halfway there, yet he took so long. Did that human cultivator really pass through the starry sky path of 10,000 arts? I reckon that human cultivator can't even reach 2,000 step. He's not worthy of his reputation. I thought he would have some kind of shocking performance. Outside Clear Sky Island, the cultivators from the 10,000 races were surprised to see Su Fang slow down. The Tensei people, Qianyuan people, and other cultivators from other races were also cursing and mocking him. High in the sky, the Eternal Divine Hall's immortal experts, who were watching the Eternal Heavenly Road, had completely different reactions to Su Fang's performance. This kid is indeed extraordinary. He actually found the trick. Looks like he has a chance to complete the Eternal Heavenly Road. Thinking about it is one thing, but being able to do it is another. In my opinion, that inheritor of the Reizeigu people will have a hard time. Compared to the human cultivator, the difference between the Qian Yuan cultivator and the human cultivator is not small. Chapter 3296. Su Fang slowed down on the Eternal Heavenly Road, and the distance between him and God Master of 10 Directions widened. That human cultivator doesn't seem to be able to make it. It's already a miracle that he could reach the 2,000th step of the Eternal Heavenly Road. How did that human cultivator pass the starry sky path of 10,000 arts? Is the starry sky path of 10,000 arts unworthy of its name, or did he cheat? The cultivators outside Sky Island were greatly disappointed by Su Fang's performance. Some even began to suspect that the starry sky path of 10,000 arts of the starry sky path of 10,000 arts was unworthy of its reputation. No. Daozu, who had extraordinary eyesight, more or less found some clues. He looked at Su Fang with a grave expression. Su Fang, there's something wrong. God Master of 10 Directions stepped onto the 2,000th step in one breath. He looked back at Su Fang, who was 100 steps away from him. At this time, God Master of 10 Directions also sensed the abnormality. He was once a peerless genius of the human race. Although he was only left with an evil corpse, his eyesight was still extraordinary. After sensing for a while, he sensed Su Fang's intention from Su Fang's every move. I didn't expect Su Fang's Tao heart to be so firm. I mocked and provoked him repeatedly, but he didn't fall for it. God Master of 10 Directions raised his eyebrows. This time, I'm not only going to defeat Su Fang, but also to prove myself in front of the Eternal Shrine's undying beings and the other cultivators of the myriad races. Therefore, the Eternal Heavenly Road is my chance to rise. Defeating Su Fang is secondary. God Master of 10 Directions calmed down and stopped provoking Su Fang. He was an ambitious person. Although he was saved from Su Fang by the undying beings of the Heaven Origin clan, he was not willing to become their slave. Because thus, he wanted to use this opportunity to challenge the Eternal Heaven's Road to suppress Su Fang and rise up in defiance of the heavens. Take. God Master of 10 Directions slowed down. Every time he passed through a great Tao spacetime, he had to figure out the trick. Su Fang inwardly sneered when he saw the 10 Directions God Lord slow down. The Jiuxuan limitless scripture he cultivated originated from the Divine Lord of 10 Directions, but in terms of cultivation realm, the Divine Lord of 10 Directions was far inferior to him. Why? Here back then, the 10 Directions Divine Lord was nothing more than the evil corpse of the 10 Directions Divine Lord, controlled by the evil consciousness. Not only had Su Fang cultivated the Jiuxuan limitless scripture to the 8th level, but he also possessed an immortal Tao heart and a powerful physical body. These were things that the 10 Directions God Lord evil corpses could not compare to. Namely, even if the 10 Directions Divine Master evil corpses found the most effective way to break through the Eternal Heavenly Road, they would not be able to do what Su Fang did, using their own heavenly Tao as a guide to fuse with the great Tao of spacetime and then using the power of the great Tao of spacetime to shatter spacetime. Divine Lord of 10 Directions, this Eternal Heaven's Road will be your burial ground. Su Fang's heart surged with fierce killing intent. If the Divine Lord of 10 Directions could not complete the Eternal Heaven's Road, it meant death. The only thing that Su Fang regretted was that he could not kill the Divine Lord of 10 Directions with his own hands, for the sake of Shi Xian's Daozu and the countless humans who had died tragically at the hands of the 12 races. Su Fang broke through the great Tao spacetime, crossing step by step, and maintained his previous speed. No. Unknowingly, almost 100 years had already passed. Su Fang finally reached the 2000th step. Although he looked a little dispirited, his eyes were very calm. There was no trace of joy or panic. The great Tao was difficult. Only by maintaining a calm cultivator's heart and advancing calmly could one reach the highest peak. The last 1,000 steps will become even more difficult. However, I am still confident that I can complete the Eternal Heaven's Road. Fang Fang looked at the end of the Heaven's Road and smiled embarrassedly. He activated the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine and continued to advance after a round of swallowing. After crossing the 2000th step, Su Fang's speed did not decrease at all, as expected of a peerless figure who had passed through the starry sky path of 10,000 arts. Extraordinary, very extraordinary. The reason why he slowed down in front was because he wanted to accumulate enough strength. If this person did not pass through the Eternal Heaven's Road, he would definitely become a peerless expert in the future and have a chance to reach the immortal realm. Unfortunately, once he enters the Eternal Heaven's Road, there is no turning back. In the end, that human cultivator will still die on the Eternal Heaven's Road. Outside Clear Sky Island, no more cultivators mocked him. Now, everyone had seen Su Fang's strength and was shocked. However, no one believed that Su Fang could pass through the Eternal Heaven's Road. High in the sky, those immortal realm experts of the Eternal Shrine were also discussing Su Fang. An immortal realm expert sighed. This human cultivator was able to become the inheritor of the Reizeigu people not only because of luck, but also because of his extraordinary strength. No wonder he dared to offend the Tensei people and the Qianyuan race. Since the Eternal Heaven's Road was opened, there were many peerless figures who could pass the 2000th step. Some even reached the 2000th and 99th step, only one step away from the final peak. In the end, Didn't they all die on the eternal heavens road? No matter how extraordinary this human cultivator is, he will still die in the end. An immortal realm expert sneered. This person was Lun Zhuan Yuan ancestor. Xing the Sky Race's Star River immortal realm expert retorted. I think he has a chance to win a primordial heavenly treasure. The Tensei people's seventh ancestor laughed. I think you have a higher chance of losing the World Annihilation Star River. Under the gaze of the experts of the 10,000 races, Su Fong advanced steadily and finally caught up with God Master 10 Directions at the 2000th step mark. Although the two of them were on the same step, they were not in the same spacetime. Su Fong, as soon as Fong Fong stepped on the step, he immediately fell into a thick fog. Entire spacetime was filled with fog, blocking Su Fong's senses. There was also a kind of heavenly ways supreme truth and Tao aura that made Su Fong completely lost. A branch of the water great Tao, the great Tao of fog. Su Fong was trapped in the foggy spacetime. His figure was majestic and unmoving. The supreme heavenly ways, supreme divine might and willpower surged out of his body along with the primordial heavenly ways aura and permeated the entire foggy spacetime. At this moment, Su Fong was like the chaos that contained and accommodated everything. He merged and embraced the entire great Tao of fog spacetime and then controlled it. Half-day. Su the fog in the spacetime where Fong Fong was suddenly boiled. After a violent tumble, it suddenly expanded and exploded, as if the fog had been pushed aside to reveal the sky. The surrounding spacetime shattered, and Su Fong's figure once again appeared on the step. He was not in a hurry to step on the next step. Instead, he stood quietly with his hands behind his back. Wait, after 6 hours, the Divine Lord of 10 Directions finally broke through spacetime and revealed himself on the step. Su Fong's mocking voice rang out. Divine Lord of 10 Directions, didn't you want to trample me underfoot? Now, it seems like I'm trampling you underfoot. Divine Lord Fong coldly snorted. Su Fong, you just want to infuriate this lord and disturb this lord's Tao heart. Do you think this lord will fall for your tricks so easily? You're so sure that you'll lose to me, so why should I disturb your Tao heart? Su Fong snorted disdainfully. I once said that you are my stepping stone to the supreme peak. The only meaning of your existence right now is to serve as a foil to my peerless edge. Su Fong sneered. Fong Fong smiled domineeringly as he suddenly accelerated. The great Tao of spacetime shattered as Su Fong overtook him step by step. Soon, he surpassed the Divine Lord of 10 Directions by more than 30 steps, which was more than 30 great Tao of spacetime. Now, the two of them had essentially switched places, and the difference between them was immediately obvious. Su Fong, Divine Lord of 10 Directions, I'll be at the end of the eternal heavenly road and watch you die. Fong Fong's domineering voice resounded through the eternal heavenly road and into the ears of the Divine Lord of 10 Directions. You dare to humiliate this lord like this? Divine Lord Fong was also shocked and surprised. Although he knew that Su Fong was intentionally infuriating him, he still found it difficult to suppress the rage and frustration in his heart. After all, he was the evil corpse formed from the evil thoughts of the Divine Lord of 10 Directions, so it was easy for him to lose his mind. Moreover, he did not have the eternal Tao heart of Su Fong. Now that Su Fong had provoked him, his Tao heart was finally thrown into disarray. Boom! Boom! The Divine Lord of 10 Directions no longer hid his strength and began to chase after Su Fong. However, reality was cruel. Not only did the Divine Lord of 10 Directions fail to catch up to Su Fong, the gap between him and Su Fong only grew wider and wider. After losing his composure and rationality, he began to slow down and consume more and more energy. One Fong Fong's great Tao spacetime had been fused and controlled by Su Fong, and then she used the power of spacetime to shatter it. Su Fong did not seem very fast, but he was astonishingly fast. He did not pause at all and continued to advance at the same speed. The eternal heavenly road did not have an undeserved reputation. It had still caused Su Fang enormous consumption and injuries. Good. Su Fang had the ability to recover her cultivation and physical body. She could use the heaven-piercing Blood King vine to devour the essence, pills, and spirit items in the corpses of foreign experts. She also had the celestial tree race's 9 flowers jasper jade pill. Thus, she could quickly recover from her cultivation and physical injuries. Although she couldn't always maintain her peak condition, she could at least endure it. 1,600. 1,700. 2,800. 1,900. Su Fang had made it to 2,990 steps. She was only 10 steps away from the end of the eternal heavenly road. Swoosh! Gasps of surprise came from outside Heaven Connection Island. Heaven-defying! That human cultivator is heaven-defying! In the past, there were quite a few peerless figures who attempted the eternal heavenly road that surpassed 2,000 steps, but very few were able to reach 2,900 steps. That human cultivator actually managed to reach 2,990 steps. Even if he fails in the end, this person will still shock both ancient and modern times. No one was not shocked, and no one was not crying out in surprise. Thus, even the experts from the Tensei people, the Heaven Yuan race, and the 12 other races had completely shut their mouths. Reverence for the strong was the instinct of all cultivators. Su Fang, the strength that Fang Fang had displayed made all those below the immortal realm sigh in surprise and revere. Even Su Fang's enemies were no exception. Chapter 3297. When Su Fang stepped on the 990th step, all the immortal realm experts were surprised. Everyone. Since the great beings of the eternal shrine joined hands to open the eternal path of heaven, there were very few peerless talents who could reach this height. However, there were very few people who were as relaxed as Su Fang. Of course, for the immortal realm experts of the eternal shrine, Su Fang's performance was just a little unexpected, but not too shocking. No. He was a supreme existence that coexisted with the heavenly Tao. He had an eternal lifespan and experienced countless storms. He had also witnessed the rise and fall of countless peerless humans. There was almost nothing that could shake their Tao hearts. Yes. Many immortal realm experts were just surprised by Su Fang's shocking performance. They were just interested in Su Fang. Su Fang's performance is so extraordinary. It's enough to show that the starry sky path of 10,000 arts is worthy of its reputation. Galaxy Immortal Realm expert of the starry sky race smiled embarrassedly, sounding quite proud. Wheel Ancestor Zhuan snorted. This guy is indeed extraordinary, but he's also arrogant enough to challenge the authority of the immortal realm experts and the upper races of the chaos. Even if he can really pass the eternal path of heaven, who knows what kind of trouble he will cause in the future. The 7th ancestor of the Tensei people continued, how can the authority of the immortal realm experts and the upper races of the chaos be challenged? That human ant tried to challenge the immortal realm experts, the Tensei people, and the Qianyuan clan. He couldn't escape death in the end. It's his fortune that he died on the eternal path of heaven. Many immortal realm experts of the eternal shrine, except for a few, nodded. The authority of the immortal realm experts and the upper races of the chaos couldn't be challenged by any practitioner. There was only one ending for the challenger, that was death. Who? However, a dignified voice rang out. Everyone, don't forget that the original intention of all of you joining hands to open up the eternal heavens road was to give those peerless geniuses without any background a hope. It would be a pity if such geniuses are unable to display their brilliance. Many immortal realm experts were silent. The voice came from the immortal realm expert of the Gold Horn clan. Who dared to refute a supreme expert? Unexpectedly, Jean, the peerless powerhouse of the Horn clan, actually also had a love for Su Fang. The Golden Horn race expert continued, if that human cultivator has the ability to pass through the eternal heavenly path and change his fate, He should be listed in the eternal shrine. What do you all think? My lord is wise. Many undyings agreed. Luan Huan Yuan Zhu said indifferently, if you want to break through the eternal heavenly road and change your destiny and future, it's difficult. As soon as Su Fang stepped onto the 2991st step, he felt as if he had entered an illusory water world from the real world. The boundless stars rippled and roiled as it converged into a boundless ocean of stars and it gave rise to enormous waves that swept towards Su Fang with the force of overturning the heavens and the earth. A grand Tao of water, and a grand Tao of water at that. Fang's expression turned grave. Most the last 10 steps were the space and time of the grand Tao at the peak, and the supreme truths of the heaven Tao contained within them were the most quintessential true essence. So even with his strength, he didn't dare be careless in the slightest. Boom! Boom! Su He stood majestically amidst the monstrous waves, allowing the wild sand waves to batter him. Pooh! The first wave hit Su Fang's physical body, and he felt as if he was a straw being lifted by a huge wave, and he could be crushed into pieces at any time. The stars seeped into Su Fang's Tao Palace, and it also set off monstrous waves in the Tao Palace. The waves let out loud rumbling sounds, and they directly battered Su Fang's Tao heart, and even his origin soul. Before the first wave subsided, another wave rose. Wave after wave swept over in a frenzy, endless and mighty. At the same time, there was also a majestic pressure and permeating power, which vividly displayed the true essence of the grand Tao of water. Taking advantage of the momentary pause, Su Fang swallowed 5 9-flower fine jade pills in one go, and the majestic medicinal power caused his physical body to recover rapidly. The heaven-piercing Blood King vine was also fully activated by Su Fang, and the blood threads seeped into his flesh and blood like countless meridians, causing Su Fang's physical body to become more stable. At the same time, the heaven-piercing Blood King vine was also crazily devouring pills, spiritual items, and the essence contained in the Daozu experts' corpses to recover its depleted cultivation and physical body. The stars that seeped into Su Fang's Tao Palace and body was also slowly being absorbed by Su Fang. There was also the terrifying will of the heavenly Tao that continuously battered Su Fang's Tao heart. Su Fang's Tao heart was like the heavens, containing everything, and it was unshakable. Until Su Fang's origin soul, with the longevity lamp, could continuously replenish pure soul power, and it was even more difficult to shake his soul. However, Su Fang then used the repeated attacks to penetrate the surrounding space and time, continuously fusing and containing the endless grand Tao of water. Although, under the repeated attacks, Su Fang was injured again and again, but it was no longer as serious as before. In the end, Su Fang was drifting in the stars and waves like a leaf floating on water. No matter how high the waves were, and how the leaves moved with the waves, they could not be harmed at all. About a month later, Grand Tao of water break. Su Fang suddenly let out a voice that was like the heavenly Tao. Boom, boom, boom. Zhou the surrounding waves soared into the sky, and the entire stars and world was boiling. The waves were turbulent, and it was earth-shattering. The raging waves engulfed the world, turning into a world-destroying storm that engulfed the entire spacetime, causing it to start to collapse. Therefore, Su Fang now had 100% of the Daozu's peak strength, and it was not impossible for him to break this grand Tao of water. However, the consumption of energy was also extremely shocking. In this way, it would become more and more difficult in the future. At this, Su Fang used his own supreme heavenly Tao to fuse with the entire grand Tao of water. It was much easier for him to break through the spacetime with the help of the grand Tao of water. Moreover, the consumption was also within an acceptable range. While fusing with the grand Tao of water, it was also a confirmation of Su Fang's supreme heavenly Tao, causing Su Fang's cultivation realm to become more stable. When the surrounding spacetime was completely shattered, Su Fang appeared on the 2991st step again. He began to wantonly devour elixirs, spiritual objects, and essences to recover his energy. His originally withered spirit gradually became hale and hearty, and his chaotic aura became calm and empty. The immortal realm expert guarding Tongtian Island said that there are still 9 supreme grand Tao of metal, wood, earth, fire, thunder, yin, yang, karma, fate, and hongming. The last 4 are the most difficult. Fong looked at the 9 steps behind him, and he did not relax at all. No matter how difficult it is, I, Su Fong, will definitely surpass it. Once I cross it, I will become one of the immortal realm experts of the Eternal Shrine, and the entire human race will rise with me. The Qianyuan clan and the Tensei people are vainly trying to take away all the rights of the Reizeigu people in the Eternal Shrine. Humph! No one can take away what belongs to me, Su Fong. Su Fong looked up at the sky outside the Eternal Heaven Road, and his eyes were filled with stubbornness and unyielding determination. As long as he crossed the last 9 steps, even if he did not become an immortal realm expert, he would be able to stand side by side with those immortal realm experts of the Eternal Shrine. Those immortal realm experts of the Eternal Shrine were not qualified to decide the fate of him and the entire human race. After resting on the steps for 3 days, a divine power that could distort space automatically surged out from the surroundings and sent Su Fong directly to the 2992nd step. At the last 10 step, after each step there would be 3 days of rest. Although it was short, it was enough for Su Fong. God Lord of 10 Directions also started to exert his full strength. His violent and evil nature had been completely aroused. He no longer used any tricks, but activated the sky-burying God monument, and used a tyrannical and domineering method to destroy Great Tao spacetime and advance step by step on the Eternal Heaven Road. The Eternal Heaven Road restricted cultivators from using all external forces, including Xian Bao, rune talismans, all kinds of treasures, and the strength of subordinates. However, the evil corpse of God Lord of 10 Directions was residing in the sky-burying God monument, and he was the sky-burying God monument, so he was not restricted by this restriction. At the same time, with the help of the sky-burying God monument, God Lord of 10 Directions gained the strength of an immortal realm expert. At the same time, when it came to Su Fong and God Lord of 10 Directions' performance on the Eternal Heaven Road, the experts of the myriad races outside Heavenly Passage Island once again fell into a state of intense shock. From time to time, someone would exclaim in surprise, "From the looks of it, that human cultivator Su Fong really does have some hope of completing the Eternal Heaven Road. That Qianyuan cultivator is also extraordinary. That's strange. Why do the auras of Su Fong and God Lord of 10 Directions both come from the human clan? Even the great Daos they cultivate are almost the same. Could the two of them be related in some way?" The immortal realm experts in the sky were all rather surprised. If such a peerless figure is nurtured and nurtured, it's very likely that he will become an immortal realm expert in the future. Why would the Qianyuan clan be willing to send such a person to the Eternal Heaven Road? Many immortal realm experts were puzzled. Many immortal realm experts did not know that the Qianyuan clan was only treating God Lord of 10 Directions as a chess piece. Why would they care about his life or death? At the same time, time passed. Su Fong stepped on the space-time of the great Daos of metal, wood, earth, fire, and lightning. Although it was not easy, it was definitely not difficult either. True. The real test had finally arrived. The 2997th step, the space-time of the great Tao of karma. You reap what you sow, karma. Whatever cause you put in, you'll reap the same result. No. Cultivators, even mortals, had countless karmas planted before they were born. Previous. In this life, gratitude, hatred, love, and hatred, these were the origins of karma. Shio. Only by severing all karma could one transcend all shackles and reach the height of coexisting with the great Tao. However, a cultivator had so much karma in his life that it was extremely difficult to sever all of it. Su Fong stepped onto the 2997th step, and everything around him changed instantly. Countless figures and illusory light screens floated in the spacetime. Countless threads condensed from starlight were densely packed together, emitting the mysterious power of karma. They connected all the figures and scenes together. All of them. The threads were all connected to Su Fong. As long as one person, object, or scene was involved, it would affect the whole situation and cause all kinds of karma, which would lead to everything in the future. Chapter 3298. The time and space of the Karma Great Path is different from any other great path. The way to destroy this time and space is also different. Every karma thread is a shackle for a cultivator. Only by cutting off all the karma threads can one break free from all shackles and rush out of the time and space of the Karma Great Path. Fong looked at the void threads between himself and the shadows around him and understood how to break the time and space of the Karma Great Path. There are countless strong people who have karma with me, and there are even immortal strong people. How can I cut them off? Su Fong furrowed his brows. Human in this life, he was affected by all kinds of people, things, and things. He went with the flow and unknowingly sank into it. His fate was at the mercy of all kinds of people and things. Every karma thread in the time and space of the Karma Great Path was related to a person, thing, or thing. The slightest touch could trigger all kinds of possibilities and lead to a series of karma. He would fall into one karma after another, and it would be difficult to break through the shackles of karma. Cutting off these threads meant breaking free from the shackles of karma. However, how difficult was it to cut off karma? If he couldn't cut it off, it would be messy. If he was careless, it would create more karma. This wasn't the biggest problem. Although the time and space of the Karma Great Path on the Eternal Heaven Road was created by immortal strong people, it was no different from reality. It was connected to the karma of the person who was tested. Su Fong's countless karma threads were connected to all the people, things, and things in reality. Search ordinary people, things, and things, as long as their cultivation was lower than Su Fong's and Su Fong could control them, he could easily cut them off. However, how could he cut off the karma between Su Fong and the Heaven Yuan clan, the Tensei people, the immortal strong people of the 12 races, and Luan Huan Yuan ancestor? If he failed, or if those immortal realm experts did something, Su Fong would suffer a backlash and be trapped in this endless cycle of karma. Failure on the Eternal Heavens Road meant death. In the sky, the immortal strong people of the Heaven Yuan clan, the Tensei people, and Luan Huan Yuan ancestor looked down at Su Fong in the time and space of the Karma Great Path and sneered in their hearts. Let's see how he will sever the karma between me and that human ant. If he dares to forcefully sever the karma between us, then I'll make him suffer karma backlash, and I'll make him be forever trapped in the entanglement of karma. The Karma Tao spacetime of the 2997th step is where that human ant died. These immortal realm warriors' gazes pierced through the space barrier, their hearts filled with killing intent. It's impossible for Su Fong to sever all karma and transcend all shackles. I'm afraid it will be trapped in the spacetime of the great Tao of karma. Patriarch Soul began to feel nervous. The galaxy immortal of the galaxy race was no longer as confident and calm as before. That some of the immortals were waiting for Su Fong's death. Only a few were worried for Su Fong. Many immortal realm warriors, including the immortal realm warrior from the Gold Horn clan, were curious to see how Su Fong would cut off all the threads of karma and break through the time and space of the great path of karma. Little did they know, inside the time and space of the great path of karma, Su Fong, who should have been troubled and even badly battered, suddenly revealed a calm smile, and a strange expression appeared on his face. There are so many threads of karma, including so many immortals, and even the Qian Yuan race and the Tensei people. It's impossible for me to sever all of them. Since I can't sever all of them, why should I sever them? The great path of karma comes from fate and it affects fate. If my fate is no longer there, then I'll sever all the karma connections between me and anyone and everything. Naturally, there won't be any shackles. Therefore, to break through the shackles of the great path of karma, I don't need to sever them. Su Fang cultivated the great path of fate and the great path of heavenly secret. He had mastered the true meaning of fate and the great path of heavenly secrets, and he had the ability to sever fate. If fate was severed, then all karma would no longer be connected, and naturally, there would be no shackles. Destiny Dharma body, sever fate. Fang Zai shouted coldly in his heart, and his mind moved. An ethereal power of fate surged out of his body, and in an instant, it severed all his fate and karma from the real world. Poof, 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 poof. The ethereal threads of karma broke from Su Fang's body as they lost their shackles. Poof. The other ends of the threads of karma were tied to shadows, and they all became dazed, floating in space like kites with broken strings. I didn't expect that human cultivator to have mastered the great path of fate, and I didn't expect that he could use this method to avoid the shackles of the threads of karma. Cunning, this guy is really cunning. Cheating. Passing the test of the great path of karma in such a way is like cheating. Many immortals looked through the space-time barrier and saw this scene. They were all surprised and shocked. The immortal from the Golden Horn clan laughed. Interesting. This human junior is really interesting. Although he's a little opportunistic, it's still a wonderful method. Even karma can't shackle me. Break. Su Fang's destiny dharma body activated the power of fate, condensing a sharp blade of nothingness and slashing at the void. The shackles of space were torn apart, and Su Fang's body was about to flash out of it. God! At this moment, a thread of karma suddenly shot out from a floating shadow of karma. It surpassed the constraints of time and space, and instantly fell on Su Fang's body, entangling him firmly. That Tao and Su Fang's shadow of karma connection came from original ancestor Luan Huan. Think impossible. Seeing that Su Fang was about to break through the critical moment of the great path of karma, original ancestor Luan Huan suddenly intervened and reconnected the karma between the two. Even if Su Fang cut off his fate, he couldn't escape the shackles of the thread of karma. Original ancestor Luan Huan, you captured my master's soul and controlled his reincarnation. Now you want to kill me. When I become an immortal, I'll make you pay 10 times more. Su Fang's eyes were burning with flames, and his heart was full of killing intent. Although Su Fang was furious in his heart, he had to deal with the crisis in front of him first. If you want to deal with me, Su Fang, you have to be prepared to pay the price. Su Fang suddenly turned his hand and grabbed. A powerful thunder of the great path of heaven that could destroy fate struck out from his palm and fell on the thread of karma. Puff! The thread of karma suddenly shattered. Su Fang got rid of the shackles and his body staggered. He flashed out of the crack that was about to heal and appeared on the step. Then Su Fang opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura became sluggish at an alarming speed. His hair and appearance also began to age at a speed visible to the naked eye. He didn't stop until he became more than 50 years old. Su Fang's life at this time was almost eternal. The loss of life force this time was still so shocking. It could be seen that the loss was heavy. Although Su Fang's life would be lost if he cut off fate with the heavenly mandate doppelganger, Su Fang's current cultivation was still within the range of tolerance. Breaking the thread of karma and getting rid of the shackles would not make Su Fang lose so much life. The loss of so much life at this time was because Su Fang not only cut off karma with the heavenly mandate doppelganger, but also followed the fate of nothingness to give Luan Zhuan original ancestor a fierce and ruthless counterattack. Killing the fate of an immortal powerhouse, how could Su Fang consume less life? High in the sky, the figure of Luan Zhuan original ancestor suddenly burned and turned into ashes in an instant. Tight then, a figure condensed by Luan Zhuan original ancestor came out of nothingness. Look Su Fang on the eternal heaven road, Luan Zhuan original ancestor frowned coldly and let out a thunderous roar. Human ant, you dare to hurt me? Even if you fall in the eternal heaven road, I will let you fall into the torment of reincarnation forever. Su Fang's counterattack couldn't possibly wipe out the fate of an immortal being. Su Fang's counterattack couldn't possibly erase the fate of an immortal. However, Lun Xuan, original ancestor, still suffered a little injury, which almost did not affect him much. However, for an immortal powerhouse like Lun Xuan, original ancestor, being injured by a Daozu was like slapping his face in public. How could he not be angry? No, the anger of the immortal powerhouse was like the wrath of the heavens. Lun Xuan, original ancestor, surged out a terrifying illusion of heavenly Tao reincarnation. Some immortal powerhouses could not help but laugh. An immortal powerhouse not only failed to deal with a Daozu, but also suffered a counterattack. This time, Lun Xuan, original ancestor's face was lost. It could be said that he went for wool and came home shorn. Lun Xuan, original ancestor. A golden figure came out of nothingness and looked indifferently at Lun Xuan, original ancestor's thought figure. Lun Xuan, original ancestor's monstrous anger suddenly disappeared, and he respectfully clasped his fist. Lord! The Horn Clan powerhouse let out a majestic voice. Interfering with the test of the Eternal Heaven Road, do you know your crime? This time, I presided over the decision of the Eternal Temple, but you openly interfered. Where did you put me? The Eternal Heaven Road was jointly opened by all the immortal powerhouses, specially to give hope to those without power and background. And Su Fang broke through the Eternal Heaven Road with the Golden Horn Clan powerhouse's personal permission. Lun Xuan, original ancestor, interfered with Su Fang in the Eternal Heaven Road test, naturally breaking the rules of the Eternal Temple. What's more, Lun Xuan, original ancestor, did it in front of the Golden Horn Clan powerhouse. How could he not be angry? Willingly then did Lun Xuan, original ancestor, realize that he had made a big mistake. His body trembled, and he hurriedly said, I know my crime, please forgive me. When that human cultivator finishes the Eternal Heaven Road, I'll deal with you then. Humph, no matter whether that human cultivator succeeds or not, you can't escape punishment. The Golden Horn Clan powerhouse snorted indifferently, and his figure disappeared into nothingness. Lun Xuan, original ancestor, did not expect to cause such a big trouble. His face was gloomy, and he no longer had the demeanor of an immortal powerhouse. Ice-old ancestor soul, Xing he immortal, and some immortal powerhouses who had conflicts with Lun Xuan, original ancestor, looked at him gloatingly. Now, Chapter 3299. Su Fang was in the eternal path, so he naturally didn't know that Lun Xuan had attacked him and angered the Golden Horn Clan. Su Fang had lost so much of his lifespan, and there were still 3 more steps left: Yin Yang, Fate, and Hongming. Every great path, time and space, was extremely difficult, so he had to hurry up and recover. At such a critical moment, Su Fang couldn't care about anything else. He urged the sky-piercing Blood King Vine to swallow the 9-flower fine jade pills. Thanks to the 9-flower fine jade pills, which had a miraculous effect on recovering life force that no other pills could compare to, Su Fang swallowed more than 20 pills in one go, and he also swallowed the essence of more than 10 Daozu powerhouses from other clans. His body's withering life force gradually recovered. No, not long after, his body started to burn with the flame of life, and finally it started to burn. Su Fang's consumed life force started to recover. Although there wasn't an immediate effect, the recovery speed was extremely shocking. 2,997 steps. 3 more steps, and he'll be able to finish the eternal path of heaven. That human cultivator is really heaven-defying. However, he used up a lot of his energy in the Karma Great Path, and he also lost his lifespan. He'll probably stop at 2,998 steps. Outside Tongtian Island, the powerhouses and giants from all clans saw Su Fang break through the Karma Great Path, time and space. Although they didn't know what happened to Su Fang in the Karma Great Path, time and space, they couldn't help but exclaim. Shock apart from shock, some people were nervous for Su Fang, hoping that he could create a miracle. Also, some people saw that his lifespan was damaged and felt sorry for him. Heaven, the powerhouses of the Universe clan, the Qianyuan clan, and the other 12 clans all shut their mouth. Su Fang's unparalleled strength was only qualified to be commented on by the Undying Realm powerhouses. Other cultivators, even the Daozu powerhouses, weren't qualified to comment on him, let alone ridicule and abuse him. Precious Tree Goddess looked at Su Fang, and the hatred she had for Su Fang had long disappeared. Instead, she felt a strong sense of regret. She had personally witnessed Su Fang's heaven-defying rise from an ant-like little cultivator to such a shocking level. Naturally, she knew how extraordinary Su Fang was. He had a strong premonition that Su Fang would create a miracle this time and complete the Eternal Heavens Road that no one had ever walked before. Once he completed the Eternal Heavenly Road, it would mean that Su Fang would soar to the heavens, and even immortal rank experts would find it hard to suppress him. Same as time also proved that Su Fang was certain that he could become an Undying, and not just any Undying. Benshi had such a great opportunity to befriend such a peerless character, and even help the precious Tree Divine Mother become immortal, yet she ended up becoming his enemy. How could she not regret it? Here by this time, God Lord 10 Directions had already taken 2,900 steps. He was worthy of being called an immortal realm expert. He had relied on his strength to reach such a height. However, he seemed to have used up a lot of energy. His face was pale, and his aura was weak and disordered. It was obvious that he wouldn't be able to last much longer. A height of 2,900 steps could be considered shocking. However, compared to Su Fang's height, it paled in comparison. Su Fang. Seeing Su Fang sitting cross-legged on the steps in front of him, God Lord 10 Directions' eyes and body began to burn with evil flames. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and powerlessness. Now, he had to admit that the current Su Fang was not someone he could surpass. Su Fang could be considered his successor. Now that his successor had surpassed him, the anger and unwillingness in God Lord 10 Directions' heart turned into evil thoughts, causing him to lose all reason. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Although Su Fang had an astonishing recovery speed, he had only recovered 20 to 30% in a mere 3 days. He looked to be in his early 40s, and there were still some gray hairs on his temples. Before he could recover, a divine power that distorted space shackled him and sent him directly to the 2,998th step. Boom. Everything in front of him instantly changed. Vast amounts of star sand, divided into black and white, filled the entire spacetime. Black. The two colors of star sand intertwined, turning the entire spacetime into a massive black and white yin-yang spacetime. Black. As the white star sand slowly swirled, it made the entire spacetime seem like the operation of the heavenly Tao. It contained the supreme truths of yin and yang, wanting to grind everything to death. Su Fang felt like he was in a massive yin-yang millstone. His physical body, Tao Palace, Tao Heart, and Soul were all being wildly torn apart and obliterated. If one could not shatter spacetime, they would be ground to dust by the millstone. Su Fang was no stranger to this. When he was undergoing the Tao Lord Tribulation, this yin-yang heavenly tribulation had appeared. The power of this yin-yang great Tao spacetime, the supreme truths of the operation and evolution of the heavenly Tao, surpassed all other heavenly Taos. It was 10,000 times stronger than the yin-yang tribulation he had experienced. It was on a completely different level. Rumble. The great yang millstone rumbled as it moved. Nascent soul Dharma body. Black-yellow Dharma body. Heavenly Tao Dharma body. Heavenly coffin Dharma body. Black yang Dharma body. Imperial heaven Dharma body. The supreme battle flag. Su Fang's consumed lifespan had not recovered yet. He did not dare to directly fuse and control the yin-yang great Tao spacetime like before. He could only use defense to stall for time and try to recover as soon as possible. It was just to shatter this yin-yang Great Tao spacetime. Next, he would enter the Destiny Great Tao spacetime. Su Fang knew that if he did not recover his lifespan to its peak state, he would not be able to pass this stage. At this moment, he used all his means. His Dharma bodies released their thoughts and used their divine powers to form layers of barriers around him to resist the terrifying yin-yang millstone. Primordial spacetime. Then, he did not hesitate to use his primordial chi to form another layer of defense. However, then, he sat cross-legged in the midst of the layers of defense and used all his strength to recover his lifespan. Boom! Boom! The yin-yang spacetime's attacks were endless, constantly wearing down Su Fang's defenses. The defenses of the Dharma bodies trembled as they were compressed and shattered layer by layer. Su Fang's powerful Tao heart and willpower, abundant energy, as well as his grasp of the heavenly Tao's true essence, displayed his powerful strength at this moment. The defense he displayed won him precious time. 1 days, 3 days, 5 days, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Time passed day by day. Unknowingly, 3 years had passed. Although Su Fang could not kill his way out of the yin-yang Great Tao spacetime, the power of the heavenly Tao in the spacetime could not crush him. Su Fang can't make it. As expected, that human cultivator will stop at the yin-yang Great Tao spacetime. What a pity! I thought he could create a miracle this time. No one can complete the eternal heavenly road. It will become an iron law that is difficult to break. Outside Tongtian Island, the cultivators of the myriad races did not see Su Fang's figure for a long time. They guessed that he was trapped inside the yin-yang Great Tao spacetime and could not help but sigh. Everyone was looking forward to the appearance of a miracle to break the iron law that no one could complete the eternal heavenly road. However, how could a miracle appear so easily? High in the sky, those immortal realm experts were also shaking their heads and sighing. The yin-yang Great Tao spacetime is endless. Su Fang will be crushed sooner or later. Another peerless genius has fallen just like that. The eternal heavenly road is too difficult. It seems that we have to lower the difficulty. Otherwise, it will be meaningless to stay here. Some immortal realm experts sighed, lamenting the fall of a peerless genius. It was not that Su Fang was not strong enough. It was just that the difficulty of the eternal heavenly road was too high. It was almost impossible for cultivators below the immortal realm to complete the eternal heavenly road. Xing He Immortal of the Starry Sky race of the Tensei people said with a smile, "Xing He Immortal, you can prepare to take out the Annihilation Star River." Xing He Immortal looked gloomy and said indifferently, "It's not the end yet. Don't be happy too early." Ancestor Ice Soul sighed inwardly. It's a pity that Su Fang can't pass this test. He was not only feeling sorry for Su Fang. Once Su Fang died on the eternal heavenly road, the Tensei people and the Qianyuan race would join forces with other immortal realm experts to attack the Leisha original realm, seal it, or even break it. By then, Xuanxin, Su Xianyun, and all the humans would be doomed. Wheel Ancestor Rotation stared at Su Fang, his eyes frozen. His heart was filled with joy and hatred. "It's too easy for you to die like this. Humph. I'll shackle your true spirit and let you reincarnate in the path of animals forever." Su Fang stopped. God Lord Ten Directions was at the end of his rope. He burned his origin to finally reach the Karma Great Tao spacetime, but he was trapped in countless karma threads. As the threads of karma were severed, more and more threads of karma were drawn out. The threads of karma crisscrossed through spacetime like spiderwebs, trapping the divine lords of 10 directions within. Another 5 years. Su Fang used up more than half of the 9 flower jade pills he had. The corpses of the outsider Tao ancestors had been completely devoured by him, and they were completely reduced to ashes. While his life force finally recovered to its peak state. He was at the peak of his life force when he was 17 years old. Such crazy devouring allowed Su Fang to recover in a short time, but it would definitely bring great side effects to Su Fang. He couldn't care less now. Thanks to the heaven-swallowing insect, Su Fang wouldn't have been able to hold on for so long. Every time Su Fang's nebulous primordial energy was almost depleted, the heaven-swallowing insect would spit out threads and turn them into primordial energy. Then, the heaven-swallowing insect would start devouring all kinds of xian bao and spiritual items in Su Fang's storage ring to recover. Su Fang had killed countless foreign experts and obtained their treasures and resources. In addition, he had obtained part of the inheritance of the Reizeigu people after the sixth heaven of the Thunder Lake original realm. Otherwise, given the heaven-swallowing insect's devouring ability, it could have devoured an entire treasure mountain. It was thanks to his own abilities and countless resources that Su Fang was able to recover to his peak state in less than 10 years. Boom! Su Fang started to withdraw his defenses. Chapter 3300. Hey, Su Fang is fighting back against the Yin-Yang Great Path Time and Space. He's back to his peak state again. His recovery speed is incredible. He was not shackled in the Yin-Yang Great Path Time and Space for so long. He was just stalling for time to recover. I thought he was struggling at death's door. I didn't expect him to be accumulating power. His strength and Tao heart are extraordinary. All the Immortal Realm experts were surprised by the scene in the Yin-Yang Great Path Time and Space. Ancestor Ice Soul stroked his beard and laughed. It seems that I underestimated Su Fang's will and ability. He might be able to create a miracle this time. Xing He of the Stellar Race became spirited. Not only did I save my Oblivion Star River, but I also won a primordial heavenly treasure. Ha ha ha! Ancestor Zhuan, the seventh ancestor of the Tensei people, and the Immortal Realm experts of the Qianyuan clan were silent. In the Yin-Yang Great Path Time and Space, it was not easy for Su Fang to integrate the entire time and space and use the power of the Yin-Yang Great Path Time and Space to shatter the entire time and space. He withdrew his defense and was immediately shackled by the terrifying power of the Yin-Yang Great Path. The power of the Yin-Yang Great Path rushed into his body and Tao Palace like a torrent, trying to grind him into ashes and vanish. There was also the astonishing will of the heavenly Tao that wanted to obliterate his Tao heart and soul, turning them into ashes. Humph! Su Fang let out a muffled groan and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was filled with pain. Boom! Boom! The power of the Yin-Yang Great Path Time and Space flooded into the Tao Palace, causing a great shock. Su Fang activated the primordial qi and shrouded the power of the Great Path in the Tao Palace. Then, he quickly integrated and controlled it. The terrifying power of the Great Path in his body was also dissolved and integrated by the primordial qi and life energy that Su Fang had penetrated into his body. As for Su Fang's Tao heart, will, and origin soul, the Great Path Time and Space could not affect them at all. The power of the Yin-Yang Great Path Time and Space was indeed shocking. Su Fang had opened his body and Tao Palace, and did not use his defense. The Tao Palace was shaking violently. The insides of his body were also being destroyed layer by layer. He was in a heavily injured state, and his life force was being consumed at an astonishing rate. All Daozu, sacrifice a portion of your life for me. He transmitted his thoughts to his subordinates inside the dark yellow Dharmakaya. In order to break through the eternal heavenly road, Su Fang had placed all the Daozu experts under his command inside the mysterious yellow celestial body. On the eternal heavens road, although he couldn't let his subordinates display their strength, he could borrow their life force. For those subordinates, no one dared to defy the will of Su Fang, and they all infiltrated the mysterious yellow embodiment with their life force. Then, with the help of the power of the black and yellow Dharma body, it penetrated into Su Fang's body layer by layer and merged with his body. After obtaining the life force of over 50 Daozu experts in one go, Su Fang's life force, which had been rapidly declining, suddenly became vigorous again, and the severe injuries on his body also began to heal rapidly. He persisted for about 6 hours. Su Fang's body and Tao Palace were filled with the power of the Yin-Yang Heavenly Tao. However, Su Fang's aura was also present. Su Fang's entire body seemed to have become a part of the Yin-Yang Great Tao spacetime, and the attacks of the Yin-Yang Great Tao spacetime on him began to weaken rapidly. Then, Su Fang began to release his will, aura, and energy, which spread and permeated the surroundings, until it covered the entire Yin-Yang Great Tao spacetime. 10%, 2%, done. 30%. After about half a month, Su Fang finally completely merged the entire Yin-Yang Great Tao spacetime. Even the Heavenly Tao can't shackle me, Su Fang. Yin-Yang Great Tao spacetime, break for me. Fang let out a lofty voice, and his will, which was like the Heavenly Tao, suddenly exploded. Rumble. Ran. Under Su Fang's control, the Yin-Yang Great Millstone began to operate according to his will, and finally shattered the entire spacetime. Ran. Fang let out a long roar full of joy and reappeared on the step. Just like that, Su Fang passed the 2998th step, and he was only 2 steps away from the end of the Eternal Heavenly Road. Su Fang stood proudly on the steps, looking at the sky with an unruly look in his eyes, as if he was challenging the Qian Yuan clan, the Tensei people, and Luanzhuan Yuan ancestor. Arrogant. Luanzhuan Yuan ancestor let out a cold snort. Qian Yuan ancestor, the Yuan clan, the Tensei people, and the immortal realm experts of the other 12 clans didn't look too good. Xing He, the immortal realm expert of the Sky clan, smiled at the 7th ancestor of the Tensei people and said, "Your Excellency, shouldn't you prepare to take out your primordial heavenly treasure?" The 7th ancestor of the Universe clan snorted. There are still fate and primordial heavenly spacetime. Unless that human cultivator can defy the heavens and change his fate, he won't be able to reach the end. The youth of the Qian Yuan clan also snorted. The higher you climb, the harder you fall. Let that human be happy for a while. When the time comes, he'll die even more miserably. Whoosh! The immortal realm expert of the Horn clan walked out of the void. He couldn't sit still after seeing Su Fang break through the Yin-Yang Great Tao spacetime. Bright light rolled around Su Fang, and the immortal realm expert of the Golden Horn clan said, "This boy has cultivated the Destiny Dharma body and mastered the Fate Great Tao spacetime. It's difficult for him to shackle the Destiny Great Tao spacetime, but he'll have to pay a huge price. The Supreme Primordial Heavenly Tao spacetime is his toughest test. I hope he can reach the end." Outside Tongtian Island. Look. When they saw Su Fang break through the Yin-Yang Great Tao spacetime, all the cultivators from the 10,000 clans were shocked. They thought Su Fang would stop here, but Su Fang could break through the Yin-Yang Great Tao spacetime after 8 years of silence. How could they not be surprised? Look, God Master of 10 Directions was still trapped in the Karma Great Tao spacetime. Countless karma threads had already swallowed him up. That Qian Yuan cultivator is finished. This guy is really extraordinary. He has few opponents under the immortal realm. Unfortunately, this is the eternal heavenly road. Everyone sighed when they saw God Master of 10 Directions trapped in the Karma Great Tao spacetime. Until the immortal realm expert of the Qian Yuan clan didn't even look at God Master of 10 Directions after he was shackled by the karma threads. Domain. He was just a pawn. He had planned to use him to suppress Su Fang and break Su Fang's Tao heart, but it seemed impossible now. So what if he died? Su Fang sat cross-legged on the steps and used the 9-flower jade pill to recover quickly. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Next is the Destiny Great Tao spacetime. I'm the master of my destiny. Even the heavenly Tao can't stop me. Su Fang suddenly stood up from the stairs and took a step forward. A kind of domineering aura spontaneously arose at this moment. First, after taking the 2,999 steps, he immediately fell into an empty, ethereal spacetime. Star sand filled the sky. Around Su Fang in the sky and under his feet, it was all empty star sand. specks of stars and converged together to form a vast river that was indistinct, illusory, and illusory. It seemed to be true yet wasn't, and it flowed endlessly like the river of destiny. Su Fong was trapped in the river of destiny. He had no past, no present, and no future. The only thing he could do was float with destiny. Hua, hua, hua. Above Su Fong, the star sand danced and surged, condensing into ethereal chains of destiny. They pierced through the star sand and landed on Su Fong's body, shackling his destiny. Su Fong felt that every time a chain of destiny wrapped around his body, he couldn't escape the control of destiny. His body kept sinking deeper into the river of destiny. He tried to struggle out of the river of destiny, but he was shackled by layers of chains. The power of destiny that couldn't be defied surged out from his surroundings, forcing him to sink into the river of destiny. A person's destiny is determined from the moment they are born. Cultivators and cultivators must break free from the shackles of destiny, break the shackles of destiny, go against the heavens, change one's destiny, control one's destiny, and change one's future. I started as a mortal in the Pan-Song universe and rose against the heavens. I stepped on the bones of powerful enemies and finally reached the supreme peak today. I changed my destiny time and time again. But in reality, my destiny is still bound and controlled by the heavenly Tao. If I want to become immortal and exist with the heavenly Tao, not only must I sever all ties and forget emotions and surpass the limits of life, but most importantly, I have to break free from the shackles of destiny. Although destiny is difficult to go against and change, I have cultivated the Tao and attained the Tao in cultivation. Coupled with the fact that I have cultivated the heavenly mandate Dharma body and grasped the power of destiny, it's not difficult to break free from the space-time of the great Tao of destiny. But in this way, I will definitely consume a lot of my lifespan. The difficulty of the final space-time of the path of eternity will multiply. I might fail at the last step. Fong's heart was as calm as water. He wasn't in a hurry to rush out of the river of destiny. Instead, he floated with the river of destiny. Whoosh, whoosh. Heavy chains of fate descended upon his body. They were densely packed and stacked layer upon layer, firmly shackling his fate. However, he was completely unaware of it. Gao in the sky, many immortal rank experts saw Su Fong floating in the river of fate, and they were all surprised and confused. That gold horn race expert said in surprise, Logically speaking, that human cultivator grasped the grand Tao of destiny, so it shouldn't be difficult for him to escape the shackles of destiny and charge out of the grand Tao of destiny. Why did he fall into it instead? Original ancestor Lunzhuan said in a gloomy voice, perhaps he knows that his destiny is hard to go against, so he is willing to hand over the control of his destiny. He is willing to accept his fate and eventually fall into eternal oblivion before he finished speaking. However, Su Fong, who was floating in the river of destiny, suddenly opened his eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly to form a wisp of a faint smile. You have to pay the price for going against the heavens and changing fate. Since I can't go against heaven's will, why should I go against heaven's will? There's no need for me to go against the heavens and change my fate, because I am the heavens. My fate will naturally be decided by me. It's hard to go against heaven's will. I am heaven's will. Fong's voice, like the voice of the heavenly Tao, reverberated in the vast spacetime of the great Tao of destiny. A supreme will and domineering aura of, I am heaven's will, suddenly erupted at this moment. Tight. Chapter 3301. The eyes of the Golden Horn clan expert shone brightly. This lad is so domineering. He actually merged his own fate with the heavenly Tao. His own fate is the mandate of heaven. He used this method to transcend the shackles of fate. Extraordinary! If this lad can take the last step and complete the eternal path of heaven, he will definitely be extraordinary in the future. Defying the heavens and changing one's fate seemed to be defying the mandate of heaven. However, It was actually the cultivator's fate being shackled by the heavenly Tao. Even if he could break free temporarily, he would still sink into his fate. Su Fang merged his fate with the heavenly Tao. He was the mandate of heaven and the mandate of heaven was him. In this way, his fate would not be shackled. He could control his own fate and go beyond defying the heavens and changing his fate. Such as how could an ordinary person be so domineering and bold? Wheel origin ancestor Zhuan said indifferently. I'm afraid that his Tao heart is not stable and his will is not strong enough. He will be assimilated by the great Tao of destiny and his fate will vanish. In the end, not even a trace of his existence will be left. What origin ancestor Zhuan said was the truth. Even the Golden Horn clan expert could not refute it. Inside the great Tao of destiny, Su Fang scattered his fate into the river of fate. In an instant, the majestic and emotionless will of the heavenly Tao seeped into his empty fate, wanting to dominate his body, his Tao palace, his soul, his consciousness, and everything else. Once controlled by the will of heaven, it meant that Su Fang's fate would completely disappear. It was like a drop of water melting into the river. Su Fang's fate could no longer be found. Even more so, all traces of his existence in the real world would be erased. How could Su Fang not have anything to rely on when he dared to do this? Ho, the life lamp burned in the Tao Palace. It made his origin soul unextinguishable. Even the will of heaven could not erase it. His immortal Tao heart was completely open. It could accept and bear everything. Even the will of heaven could not shake it. Instead, it was contained by his Tao heart. His will was not extinguished. Su Fang's consciousness remained clear. He controlled his own fate. Gradually, the river of destiny no longer affected him. Like a fish swimming in the water, the fish became a part of the water. Naturally, the water would not form any shackles on the fish. The chains that shackled Su Fang's fate also began to loosen gradually, and then began to collapse. Fate, the star sand in the space-time of the great Tao of luck, gradually turned into nothingness as the Su Fang fused with the mandate of heaven, and eventually disappeared. The river of fate then vanished into nothingness. Su Fang returned to reality and his figure reappeared. He appeared to be completely unscathed, and his aura became more and more illusory. It felt as if his fate was connected to the heavenly Tao. Just like that, Su Fang passed through the most illusory space of the grand Tao of destiny on the 2,999 steps without any mishap. Gao in the sky. The gold horn race Undying's eyes gleamed, scanning Luan Huan Yuan ancestor, the Tensei people, and the Gon Yuan Undyings. Whirling, he then said in a dignified voice, not only did this child obtain the transcendence of fate, he is also connected to the heavenly Tao. It is as if he has the will of the heavens. Although he does not have the cultivation of the immortal realm, he is no different from an immortal realm cultivator. No one can erase his fate. If you still want to suppress him, I'm afraid you'll have to carefully consider the consequences. The reason why the Gold Horn clan expert said so was because he cherished talent. On the one hand, he was an undying fighter of one of the three supreme royal families. In order to protect the power and position of the supreme royal families, he naturally had to find an opportunity to beat up the Chaos upper families like the Universe clan and the Heaven Yuan clan. Most of the Undyings were silent. No one dared to challenge the dignity of the three supreme royal families. However, although many of the Undyings did not dare to refute the Gold Horn clan, they actually sneered in their hearts. They could not erase Su Fang's fate, but they could seal him and imprison him in the heavenly Tao of Void forever. On Tongtian Island, on the peak of the central mountain, the elder in front of the cottage had a strange light in his eyes. He clicked his tongue and sighed. I can't believe I actually saw someone pass through the Eternal Heaven Road, outside Tongtian Island. There was another wave of exclamations. Some of the Tensei people and the Gon Yuan clan were all trembling, looking at Su Fang in disbelief. Impossible. No cultivator can walk through the entire eternal heaven road. There's still the last stage. That human cultivator will definitely die on the 3000th step. Some of the Tensei people and the Gon Yuan clan's cultivators kept cursing in their hearts, but they did not dare to say it out loud. Su Fongfong sat cross-legged on the stairs with his eyes closed, making the final preparations for the final stage. On the second day, he suddenly opened his eyes and looked down the stairs. His gaze penetrated the space-time barrier and saw God Master of 10 Directions. God Master of 10 Directions was shackled by countless threads of karma. The more he struggled, the more karma he triggered. God Master of 10 Directions' evil corpse was formed by evil karma. Evil karma was one of the biggest karmas for cultivators. It involved countless karmas, and they were not ordinary ones. Because that was why God Master of 10 Directions' evil corpse could not break free from the shackles of the spacetime of the great Tao of karma. But Su Fong was different. He had cut off the 3 corpses and cut off the karma, evil karma and good karma. Even if he did not master the great Tao of fate, he could easily cut off all karma unless those undyings interfered. Seeing God Master of 10 Directions powerless to struggle, Su Fong let out a sigh in his heart. I did not expect God Master of 10 Directions' evil corpse to be trapped in endless karma in such a way. In the end, he will die on the eternal heaven road. God Master of 10 Directions' evil corpse, who once almost destroyed the entire human race, will end up like this. It is truly lamentable. Whoosh. However, God Master of 10 Directions' evil corpse let out a roar filled with despair and unwillingness. I am only one step away from the peak of the great Tao. I cannot accept this. Whoosh. God Master of 10 Directions' body started to burn with evil flames. His body and soul were burning fiercely. He had realized that he could not break free from the karma shackles and did not want to die in humiliation. He had chosen to burn himself to end everything. Everything was burning. All the karma had lost its place to attach to, and the threads of karma were quickly broken. It burned for nearly 2 hours. God Master of 10 Directions' evil corpse had completely turned into a man of fire. Everything, including fate, was about to be completely burned away. The evil aura was completely gone. Su Fong, you have won. Everything you have came from my Jiuxuan everlasting scripture. Therefore, I have not lost. If there is a next life, I will definitely defy the heavens and step onto that supreme peak. God Master of 10 Directions, who was nearing death, regained his normal consciousness and let out an arrogant and wild laugh. His laughter grew weaker and weaker until it finally disappeared completely. The flames also gradually extinguished. The surrounding space of the great Tao of karma also started to collapse and turn into nothingness. There is nothing wrong with God Master of 10 Directions' evil corpse. There is no right or wrong in this world. Su Fong sighed in his heart once again. Great. His enemy had finally died. However, he did not feel any joy in his heart. Instead, he was filled with sorrow. Whoosh! A black Xian Guang flashed out of God Master of 10 Directions' ashes. It was God Master of 10 Directions' primordial heaven treasure, the heaven-burying divine steel. God Master of 10 Directions' evil corpse had died, but the heaven-burying divine steel was still intact. However, it had become an ownerless object. Boom! Boom! God! Boom! The heaven-burying divine steel tried to rush out of the eternal heavens road, but it could not break through the shackles. Many immortal realm experts in the sky looked at the heaven-burying divine steel with greedy eyes. Seeing that your master is also an extraordinary genius, I will give you freedom. Go and find your next master. Then, the immortal realm expert from the Golden Horn race sighed faintly. He raised his hand and pointed at the eternal heavens road. The void rippled and a whirlpool appeared. Bury. The heaven-burying divine steel rushed into the whirlpool and disappeared without a trace. God Master of 10 Directions, I hope you can reincarnate. Su Fong slowly closed his eyes. His Tao heart became calm again. After resting on the steps for 3 days, Su Fang slowly stood up. The last step is the supreme space of the great Tao of primordial heaven. Once you cross it, you will be able to complete the entire eternal heavens road and reach the eternal shrine. Su Fang revealed a lofty expression. He took a step forward and landed on the 3000th step. That human cultivator will create an unprecedented miracle on the 3000th step. Once he crosses it, he will soar into the sky and become famous. If he doesn't, he will die. Whether he dies at the last step or rises against the heavens, success or failure will depend on this step. All the other race cultivators outside Clear Sky Island became nervous. They stared at the last step without blinking. Even the immortal realm experts in the sky were looking at Su Fang attentively. Some were looking forward to it, while others were disdainful. The moment Su Fang stepped onto the 3000th step, he felt like he had stepped into an illusory space from reality. Everything around him was still. There was no past, present, or future. Naturally, there was no time. Here, an instant was an eternity was an instant. There was no space, no light, no matter, no energy, and no heavenly Tao laws. The moment Su Fang entered, his entire body was shackled. It was as if he was sealed in an eternally still space. Everything about him was still. The only thing that could still move was his consciousness. This is the primordial Tao spacetime. It is also the heavenly Tao of chaos before the creation of the heavens. If I want to break this spacetime, I need to use my strength to split it open. There is no shortcut, and I don't need to use shortcuts. Fang's eyes were filled with dominance. He actually planned to use his own strength to create a heavenly Tao of his own in this heavenly Tao of chaos that had nothing. His mind moved. His will was like the heavenly Tao. Jiuxuan's Limitless Sutra Level 8 Cultivation Realm was at the limit of the Daozu. Together with the primordial qi, it exploded from his body, shattering the surrounding shackles and breaking the surrounding peace. Great returning to ruins technique. A chaotic mirror quickly condensed in front of Su Fang. The chaotic Xian Guang in the mirror surged wildly. A supreme will of the heavenly Tao that could destroy and end everything was brewing within. Clang. Chapter 3302. A will and principle that were completely opposite to the previous will erupted from the mirror along with the chaotic Xian Guang. 10,000 things were born, and 10,000 laws were born. The heavenly Tao created and evolved the power of the heavenly Tao, instantly covering the entire primordial Tao spacetime. Originally, there was nothing in spacetime. Now there was time and space. However, then, it evolved from nothingness into yin and yang, and then into the 4 divisions. Thunder roared, giving birth to energy and matter. Evolving 10,000 laws, creating all things. Great creation technique. Bang. As the peace of the primordial Tao spacetime was broken, an extremely weak golden light appeared in the deepest part of spacetime. That is the end of the eternal heavenly road. Su Fang's eyes suddenly became resolute and bright as he stepped into the air. With every step, a chaotic lotus would surge out from under his feet. It contained 10,000 laws, as if flowers of the heavenly Tao were blooming under his feet. After 1,000 steps, Su Fang appeared in front of a golden light screen and stepped forward without hesitation. His body passed through the light screen. Out now, in front of him was a dazzling palace floating in the void. Palace. On the plaque in front of the palace, there were 2 golden divine words that contained endless heavenly Tao and supreme will of the heavenly Tao. Eternal, eternal. Eternal, eternal shrine. Su Fang crossed the 3000 great Tao spacetime and broke through layers of obstacles. He finally finished the eternal heavenly road and arrived in front of the eternal shrine. Eternal shrine. Su Fang looked at the eternal shrine that was emitting brilliant heavenly power. His eyes flashed with a bright light, and his heart surged with great joy and unparalleled pride and confidence. Finishing the eternal heavenly road meant that he had once again surpassed a mountain. From then on, he could be listed in the eternal shrine and be on par with the immortal powerhouses. Same as this also meant that the Tensei people, the Qianyuan race, and the 12 races would no longer be able to suppress him. The crisis between him and the human race would also be resolved. Since the eternal heavenly road was opened, countless peerless geniuses had been unable to finish the eternal heavenly road and eventually died on it. However, Su Fang had created an unprecedented miracle. It was enough to prove his strength and ability to the 10,000 races. How could Su Fang not be happy and excited at this time? How could he not feel proud of himself? Outside Clear Sky Island. Seizing the opportunity, a moment later, a tsunami of exclamations and praises erupted. Those experts and giants, who were usually high and mighty and incomparably dignified, were now shocked and exclaiming like ordinary people. No one has ever completed the Eternal Heavens Road, but a human cultivator has done it. That human cultivator defied the heavens and rose to power. Even immortal realm experts couldn't stop him. Not only Su Fang, but the entire human race will rise with him. Among the myriad of races, there will also be a place for the human race. With the Su Fang leading the rise of the human race, there will definitely be bloodshed. I wonder which races will suffer. Countless experts looked at Su Fang with reverence in their eyes, as if they were looking at an immortal expert, and a powerful one at that. Also someone was trembling in fear. For example, the precious tree god mother and the cultivators of the 12 races. We miscalculated. The heavenly tree race has completely miscalculated this time. With Su Fang's personality, how could he let the heavenly tree race go so easily? The precious tree god mother was so anxious that even her intestines were green with regret. The cultivators of the 2 races were even more frightened and panicked than the precious tree god mother. Although the Mayfly race, 3-eyed black demon race, and the other races all had immortal realm experts, their overall strength was far inferior to the Tensei people and the Qianyuan race. The 12 races had almost exterminated the human race. The hatred of extermination was almost impossible to resolve. Once Su Fang became immortal realm, even immortal realm experts would find it difficult to stop him. Heaven, the cultivators of the Eternity race and the Qianyuan race weren't as panicked as the 12 races, but their expressions were frighteningly gloomy. This time, the 2 high races had been utterly humiliated. Everyone from the top to the bottom had been thoroughly humiliated. Under the gaze of the myriad races, Su Fang finished the Eternal Heavens Road. At this moment, Su Fang's name shook the myriad races. Inside the Eternal Temple, many immortal realm experts retracted their consciousnesses. Although they looked calm, their hearts were surging with wave. Su Fang's performance on the Eternal Heavens Road had shocked these immortal realm experts. The most conflicted immortal realm expert was none other than Ice Soul Ancestor. He was happy for Su Fang's rise. On the other hand, he regretted driving Xuanxin and Su Xianyun out of the Ice Soul Holy Clan. Although he had no choice but to do it under the pressure of the 2 great chaotic races, Su Fang would definitely be estranged. How could Ice Soul Ancestor not regret it? The immortal realm experts of the Sky race were probably the happiest. At the Sky race, Undying had expressed their goodwill to Su Fang when he was challenging the Starry Sky path of 10,000 art. With Su Fang's shocking performance this time, he would definitely become an immortal realm expert in the future. And he would be a powerful immortal realm expert above ordinary immortal realm experts. To be able to get close to such a powerful figure was a great thing for any race. Most Xinghe of the Sky race was the happiest. He looked at the immortal realm experts of the Tensei people with a big smile. How could he not be happy when he got a primordial heavenly treasure? No. Immortal realm experts didn't care about external objects or forces, but a primordial heavenly treasure was a different story. No one would complain about having too many treasures. Even if he couldn't use it himself, it would be a great treasure for the Sky race. Sky, the immortal realm masters of the Universe clan, and the Qian Yuan clan all looked gloomy. They felt as if they had been slapped in the face. They had spent a lot of effort and used a lot of connections to push through the Eternal Temple's decision. But Su Fang, how could a mere human cultivator retaliate in such an arrogant and overbearing manner? The two immortal beings of the upper races were naturally embarrassed. From now on, the two great chaotic races would become the laughingstock of all races. The immortal realm experts' Tao hearts were like the sky. Losing some face was nothing to them. But to the two great chaotic races, it was a big loss. No. Just the loss of face and the dignity of the two great chaotic races would be damaged. It would be difficult for them to deter all races, and they would lose a lot of real benefit. To the immortal realm experts of the two great chaotic races were not in a good mood. The one who was in the worst mood was the seventh elder of the Tensei people. Not to mention the loss of a primordial heavenly treasure, the conflict with Su Fang was caused by him. From now on, his reputation and status among the Tensei people would be damaged. The seventh ancestor of the heavenly Ian clan felt increasingly irritated by Xing He's complacent gaze. His killing intent towards Su Fang grew even more intense. So what if you've completed the Eternal Heavenly Road? So what if you're listed in the Eternal Temple? I still have the power to seal the original realm of Luais and destroy your Tao path. You'll never be able to become an immortal realm expert. The Tensei people are the heavens. If you and the human race want to go against the heavens, you'll be crushed into powder. Then the seventh elder of the Tensei people started to transmit his godly thoughts to the Qian Yuan race and the other 12 races. This made him even angrier. Except since the Qian Yuan race was determined to deal with Su Fang, some of the immortal realm experts of the other 12 races refused to continue fighting with Su Fang. Some declined politely, and some were hesitant. Everyone. Gold, the voice of the Horn race, attracted the attention of many immortal realm experts. Your previous decision to cancel all the rights of the Reizeigu people in the Eternal Temple is meaningless now. Therefore, I've decided to cancel this decision. What do you think? No one objected to the decision of the Horn race's immortal realm expert. No. What else could they do? They would take away all the rights of the Reizeigu people in the Eternal Temple. After Su Fang finished the Eternal Path of Heaven, he was qualified to be listed in the Eternal Temple and enjoy the same status and rights as an immortal realm expert. The only difference was that Su Fang was no longer an inheritor of the Reizeigu people, but a human warrior. The decision made by the Tensei people, the Qian Yuan race, and the immortal realm experts of the other 12 races had become a joke. They could only cancel it. Since no one objects, we'll cancel the previous decision. The Golden Horn race immortal nodded. Then he looked outside the palace and said in a majestic voice, "Human Su Fang, come in." Su Fang, who was waiting outside the Eternal Temple, was shocked. He raised his head and strode to the entrance of the Eternal Temple. The next moment. The next step not only meant that Su Fang had reached the peak, but it also meant that the human race was qualified to stand proudly among the 10,000 races. He calmed his breathing, and his Tao heart returned to its tranquil state. Then he walked into the palace. Shwa, 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 shwa. As soon as he entered the inner space of the palace, everyone looked at Su Fang. Su Fang entered calmly, and his divine light swirled in the inner space. Then he cupped his fists and bowed to the center. Su Fang of the human race, greetings to the Golden Horn race immortals and immortals. The Golden Horn race immortal nodded and said, "Sit." He pointed to the outer space, and a futon that was exactly the same as the other immortals appeared. Su Fang walked over and sat cross-legged on the futon. Ice Soul Ancestor was the first to speak. "Su Fang, congratulations." Xing He of the Galaxy race also smiled and said, "Su Fang, do you still remember me? From now on, you're on the same level as the other immortals. Congratulations." Except for the Tensei people and the Qian Yuan race immortals, the other immortals all congratulated Su Fang. There were very few immortals among the 10,000 races in the chaos. Now that there was a new face in the Eternal Temple, these immortals had to congratulate him. Su Fangfang stood up again and cupped his fist. "Thank you, seniors." The Golden Horn race immortal made a hand sign, and a golden token flew out. However, Chapter 3303. This is your Hong Meng token, and also your identity token in the Eternal Shrine. You'll know its use after merging with it. The Golden Horn Undying explained to Su Fang. Su Fang grabbed the token in his hand, then stripped it of its blood and penetrated it with his consciousness. Amazing information poured into his mind. This token itself was an extraordinary Xian Bao, and it was not weaker than an innate Hong Meng heavenly treasure. The token contained the wills of the 3 supreme royal clans, and it could communicate with the Eternal Shrine and trigger the Eternal Law. In the internal space of the token, there was a powerful space formation. In a critical moment, the token could be directly activated to enter the Eternal Shrine, and even undying beings could not shackle it. For undying beings, this ability was not very useful. After all, undying beings were immortal, and it was difficult to threaten them. However, for Su Fang, it was very useful. With this Hong Meng token, unless the Eternal Shrine made a decision to deprive Su Fang of his rights, even undying beings could not suppress him. This was the most basic function of the token. The token was also an identity token. With the Eternal Token, Su Fang had the right to make decisions and appeal in the Eternal Shrine. Don't underestimate this right. When it came to the interests of the race of the undying being, Su Fang would become the target of all parties to rope him in when the decision had to be made in the Eternal Shrine. Same as with the Eternal Token, Su Fang had the right to decide the fate of all races. Su Fang also got a lot of information from the token, and it was all about the rules of the Eternal Shrine. Su Fang of the human race, take your time to comprehend the Eternal Token. There's one more thing. The Golden Horn Undying said to Su Fang. Take his divine light rolled around Luanzhuan. When you were in the time and space of karma, Luanzhuan interfered. Although it did not cause you any consequences, it violated the law of heaven. It started with you, and I want to hear your opinion on how to deal with it. Luanzhuan. Su Fang looked at Luanzhuan, who was sitting cross-legged on a futon in front of him. Luanzhuan sent Terror Ancestor to try to break the seal of Xixian Mountain and release the 10 Directions God Master Evil Corp. Not Ancestor Fruit Terror was killed by Su Fang. In his anger, Ancestor Luanzhuan Origin Ancestor actually captured Xixian Daozu's true spirit and controlled Daozu's reincarnation. Son of previously, in the Karma Great Tao space-time of the Eternal Heavenly Road, Origin Ancestor Luanhuan tried to use karma to destroy the Su Fang. Between Su Fang and Luanzhuan Origin Ancestor, it could be said that there was a deep hatred. Unexpectedly, Su Fang completely didn't expect that the Gold Horn clan would actually uphold justice for him. Origin Ancestor Luanzhuan was a person who sought revenge for the smallest grievance. Wasn't Su Fang the same? Well, since Ancestor Zhuan had grasped the truth of reincarnation, even if Su Fang ascended to the immortal realm, it would be hard for him to take revenge and save Xixian Daozu's reincarnation. Now that there was a heaven-sent opportunity in front of them, Su Fang naturally wouldn't let it go. Slightly after thinking for a while, Su Fang said, "I've just entered the Eternal Shrine and I'm a junior. Although Ancestor Luanzhuan Origin Ancestor has repeatedly targeted me and wanted to kill me, I don't want to make things too difficult for him. Ancestor Luanzhuan Origin Ancestor, please let my master go, and this matter will be over." The Horn Clan Great Being asked in surprise, "What's the matter?" Fang recounted the past in full detail in front of everyone. Luanzhuan Origin Ancestor was domineering and vengeful. Many immortals knew that his behavior was not strange at all. Although they felt disdain for what he had done to Su Fang, no one said anything to reprimand him. The Gold Horn clan undying looked at Luanzhuan, origin ancestor. Luanzhuan, Su Fang's request is not excessive. Why don't you let his master go, and I won't pursue the matter of you breaking the rules and offending me. What do you think? That human cultivator is a slave that I spent a lot of energy to cultivate. He will definitely become an immortal in the future. How can I let him go so easily? I violated the rules of heaven and offended you. Please punish me and I'll take it. As for letting him go, Humph, don't even think about it. Luanzhuan, origin ancestor, was still domineering and refused the Gold Horn clan unceremoniously. Say. After that, the figure of origin ancestor Luanzhuan turned into a divine light and disappeared from the eternal shrine without a trace. Humph! The Horn clan undying snorted, and a layer of frost appeared on his face. He was a great being of the supreme royal clan. He was humiliated by Luanzhuan, origin ancestor, in public, so he was naturally furious. Su Fang was disappointed, and his killing intent towards Luanzhuan, origin ancestor, became stronger. I will punish Luanzhuan, origin ancestor, according to the rules of heaven. This is the end of the discussion. Let's go. The Gold Horn clan undying stood up, waved his hand, and disappeared into nothingness. His undying beings left one after another. Ice Soul ancestor, Universe clan undying beings, and many other undying beings all transmitted their divine thoughts to Su Fang. Some sent invitations to Su Fang, and some left runes to show their goodwill. It was obvious that they wanted to rope him in. These immortal realm masters were all supreme masters of the 10,000 races. They were high and mighty, but at this moment, they all treated Su Fang as an equal. Human ant, you are very powerful and proud now. The seventh ancestor of the Tensei people suddenly transmitted his divine thoughts to Su Fang. Su Fang's eyebrows twitched. God. The seventh ancestor of the Universe clan continued, don't think that you can turn over a new leaf after entering the Eternal Shrine. The Tensei people will step on you sooner or later, and you will never be able to turn over a new leaf. The enemies who tried to step on Su Fang's head were all stepped on by me in the end, becoming stepping stones for me to reach a higher peak, Su Fang replied unceremoniously. Let's wait and see. The seventh ancestor of the Tensei people sneered and then left with the other Tensei people. Su Fang of the human race, I am Tai Hun Tian of the Tai Hun race. Su Fang had just finished his conversation with the seventh ancestor of the Tensei people when a majestic voice rang in his mind. Tai Hun race? Su Fang had heard of it before. Mixed, there were more than 10,000 races in the primal chaos. There were countless races in the primal chaos. However, there were not many high races in the primal chaos. The Tensei people and the Qianyuan race were both high races in the primal chaos, and the Tai Hun race was one of them. Su Fang had heard of the Tai Hun race before, but he had never had any dealings with them. He did not know why the Tai Hun race had transmitted his divine thought. Su Fang looked at a middle-aged cultivator sitting cross-legged on a futon in front of him. He had a pair of bat-like pointy ears and was covered in a gray robe. He was also a powerful undying being, and he was not weaker than the one from the Golden Horn race. Su Fang hurriedly replied, Senior, what can I do for you? The undying being named Tai Hun Tian continued, When I saw the Tensei people, the Qianyuan race, and the Luanzhuan ancestor bully you, I felt that it was unfair. Thank you, Master. Su Fang could not help but feel puzzled. He did not expect the undying being to be so kind. I saw that you were an unparalleled genius, and I could not bear to see you being bullied by the high races. Therefore, I wanted to help you. As long as you and the human race are willing to submit to me, I can help you stop the Tensei people, the Qianyuan race, and the Luanzhuan ancestor. Tai Hun Tian finally revealed his intentions. He wanted Su Fang to submit to him. Su Fang replied, I have always been free and undisciplined, so I do not wish to submit to any great beings or powers. Please forgive me, Master. What a joke! How could Su Fang submit to others? Humph. Tai Hun Tian snorted coldly. After a pause, Tai Hun Tian continued, "Since you are so arrogant and unwilling to submit to me, I will not force you. However, I can make a deal with you. As long as you give me the inheritance of the Reizeigu people, I will promise to protect you and the human race. You won't refuse, right?" He did not expect that Tai Hun Tian's intention was to get his hands on the inheritance of the Reizeigu people. The Luai's ancient clan had once dominated all races. Wherever the supreme battle flag went, all races would submit to it. Although the Luai's ancient clan wasn't as powerful as the three supreme royal clans, it was still more powerful than the other chaotic upper clans. Now, although the Reizeigu people had completely disappeared in the river of history, how amazing was the inheritance left by the Reizeigu people. Even the undying beings could not help but be jealous. Tai Hun Tian. It was not strange that Tai Hun Tian wanted the inheritance of the Reizeigu people. The inheritance of the Reizeigu people was the capital of the human race's rise. The Reizeigu original realm was the foundation of the human race's survival. How could Su Fong give it away? Clang. He immediately refused. "Sorry, I have not obtained all the inheritance of the Reizeigu people, and I have no intention of exchanging the inheritance of the Reizeigu people for protection from other forces. No wonder you dare to offend the Tensei people and the Qianyuan race. You are indeed arrogant. Don't think that you can sit back and relax after completing the eternal heavenly road and entering the eternal shrine. Sooner or later, you will obediently take the inheritance of the Reizeigu people and kneel before me and beg for it." Tai Hun Tian was immediately enraged by Su Fong's blunt rejection. After letting out a threatening sneer, his figure transformed by his thoughts flew away. Think, Kent. Su Fong did not expect that after completing the eternal heavenly road and entering the eternal shrine, he would attract new trouble. Even more, what surprised Su Fong was that after rejecting Tai Hun Tian, another undying great being transmitted his godly thought to him. "Su Fong of the human race, I am an undying great being from the mist barbarian race." Su Fong could tell that the undying great being's tone was quite unfriendly. He frowned. "Senior, what's the matter? You probably don't know about the karma between the Reizeigu people and the mist barbarian race. The Reizeigu people enslaved my race, so we have a blood feud with them. The mist barbarian race was originally a vassal race of the Reizeigu people. Now that Su Fong had become the inheritor of the Reizeigu people, the mist barbarian race had come to cause trouble." Su Fong replied indifferently, "Senior, what do you want?" The undying great being's domineering voice echoed in Su Fong's mind. "I don't have any other requests. Just remove the slave imprint that the Reizeigu people planted in my race's bloodline and destiny, and give me half of the inheritance of the Reizeigu people as compensation. Then, the mist barbarian race will live in peace with you and the human race." Chapter 3304. Su Fong replied coldly, "What if I don't agree?" "If you don't agree, I'll have to join forces with the Tensei people and the Qianyuan race. Sooner or later, we'll break into the Reizeigu people and take all the inheritance of the Reizeigu people. By then, not only will you not get the inheritance of the Reizeigu people, but you and the human race will also die. It's up to you to decide." The undying from the mist barbarian sneered and left in embarrassment. "How dare a slave of the Reizeigu people be so arrogant in front of me, the future inheritor of the Reizeigu people? You've obtained all the inheritance of the Reizeigu people and become the target of many undying beings. However, I, Su Fong, am not a pushover." Su sneered in his heart. However, then he activated the Hong Meng token. Hanga Golden Xian Guang burst out of the token, wrapped around Su Fong, and disappeared from the eternal shrine. Wait. When Su Fong reappeared, he was already in the sky above Tongtian Island. Su Fong. Ice. Ancestor Soul's thought flashed and turned into the figure of an elder in white. "I didn't expect you to finish the entire Eternal Heaven Road. Even I have to admire you." Ancestor Ice Soul nodded with a smile and said politely. Su Fong smiled embarrassedly. Thank you for your compliment, Senior. Ancestor Ice Soul changed the topic. You're now in the Eternal Shrine. Even undying beings can't do anything to you. However, don't be careless. The Tensei people, the Qianyuan race, and the Lunzhuan ancestor won't let this go easily. He was worried that driving Xuanxin and Su Xianyun out of the Ice Soul Holy Clan would cause a rift between Su Fong and Su Fong. Not only the Lunzhuan ancestor and the two higher races, but also the Tai Hun race and the Mist Barbarian race won't let this go easily. Ancestor Ice Soul was shocked. Take Su Fong told Ancestor Ice Soul about Tai Hun Tian and the Mist Barbarian Immortal Realm experts' intention to encroach on the Reizeigu people. Ice Patriarch Soul frowned and sighed. This is going to be troublesome. Fong sneered disdainfully. It doesn't matter. I have the Hong Ming token. Immortal Realm experts can't do anything to me. Who under the Immortal Realm can be my opponent? Ice Soul Forefather shook his head and said, You underestimate the overall power of those high races. You also underestimate their ruthlessness. If they want to deal with you, they will use all kinds of methods to avoid the laws of heaven. In the end, they will use their great power to suppress you. As long as you don't become immortal, they might even kill you. I understand. Thank you for your reminder, sir. He cupped his fists and thanked Ancestor Ice Soul. Even Tai Hun Tian and Mist Barbarian Undyings were eyeing the inheritance of the Reizeigu people. There were probably many others who had the same idea. Besides, the Reizeigu people had many strong enemies back then. They might be tempted as well. You must be careful. Old Ancestor Pa warned again, before the thought vanished into nothingness. Seems like the Hong Meng token is not enough. Realm Spirit once said that the test of the 8th level of Leisha Original Sector was a powerful trump card left by the Reizeigu people. Given the glory of the Reizeigu people back then, their trump card must be extraordinary. It will be enough to help me resolve any danger. Let's go back to Leisha Original Sector first. Fong flashed and left the sky above Tongtian Island. The time and space around Tongtian Island were shackled. The gate of heaven in Leisha Original Sector could not descend, so Su Fong had to leave the island. As soon as he appeared outside Tongtian Island, he caused a huge commotion. That's Su Fong of the human race. The first person to complete the Eternal Heaven Road. Su Fong is mighty. Countless cultivators shouted and shouted Su Fong's name. They looked at Su Fong with reverence and fanaticism. Su Fong nodded and smiled. He was about to activate the Leisha Original Sector's origin aura. Whoosh! Oni figure came from the sky. Unexpectedly, it was the Precious Tree Divine Mother. Su Fong looked at the Precious Tree Divine Mother indifferently. Precious Tree Divine Mother, I stole the Heavenly Tree's innate ability last time. Are you planning to take revenge on me? The Precious Tree Divine Mother smiled bitterly. You just finished the Eternal Heaven Road. Now your name is known to all. How dare I take revenge on you? I'm here to apologize to you. Su said. Fong was surprised. Apologize. The Precious Tree Divine Mother took out a Xian Guang. There were 3 elixirs in it. They looked similar to the 9-flower jade pill, but they were bigger and had a more terrifying aura. Su Fong sensed the aura of the elixirs and raised his eyebrows. This is a 9-flower jasper pill refined from the celestial tree mother flower, 10 times more powerful than the ones I gave you before. It's even useful to immortal rank experts, so I'll give it to you as a token of my apology. Su Fong did not hesitate. He grabbed the elixir and sucked it into the space inside his body. Then, he said indifferently, forget it. From now on, I have nothing to do with the Heavenly Tree race. We won't pursue the past. The Precious Tree Divine Mother was relieved. Then, she sighed inwardly. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have. The Precious Tree Divine Mother was already satisfied that Su Fong would stop thinking about the Heavenly Tree race. She did not dare to mention the Heavenly Tree Vine again for the time being. While Su Fong and the precious tree divine mother were talking, the cultivators from all the races looked up at Su Fong. Among the crowd, a golden-haired lion-faced cultivator suddenly raised his golden eyebrows. After a moment of hesitation, the lion-faced cultivator suddenly roared at Su Fong. Su Fong, I, Lion Roar, the master of the terrifying soul race, challenge you. The voice contained terrifying power. As soon as it came out, the wind rose and clouds surged. The space trembled, shaking the soul. The cultivators of all the races fell silent. Countless gazes filled with shock landed on the lion-faced cultivator. Then, there was a flurry of discussion. Is the master of the terrifying soul race crazy? He wants to challenge Su Fong? Although the terrifying soul race is not a chaotic upper race and has no immortal experts, it is still a powerful race among the races. The master of the terrifying soul race, Lion Roar, is also a peerless expert with a chance to step into the immortal realm. But he's not enough to challenge Su Fong. The master of the terrifying soul race must be crazy for fame. Su Fong has just finished walking the eternal heavenly road and even has the strength of an immortal. How can he challenge him? He just wants to step on Su Fong's head to make a name for himself. If he has the strength, why doesn't he dare to walk the eternal heavenly road? The human cultivators were shocked and snorted at the lion-faced cultivator's challenge. Su Fong smiled casually and looked down at the lion-faced cultivator. I've finished walking the eternal heavenly road that no one has ever finished before. Now, my name has spread far and wide. You just want to step on my head to make a name for yourself. Why should I agree to your challenge? The lion-faced cultivator then roared, Human cultivator, the terrifying soul race is the slave race of the Rezegu people, and you are the inheritor of the Rezegu people. In order to break free from the Rezegu people's slavery, I'm challenging you, not to make a name for myself. If you really are the inheritor of the Rezegu people, you must fight me. The Rezegu people's slave race? Su Fong's eyebrows furrowed. The Rezegu people used to be a deterrent to all races, and had many vassal races. However, Su Fong didn't know much about them. He thought. Just as he finished walking the eternal heavenly road, the mist barbarian race appeared in the eternal shrine, and now the terrifying soul race jumped out. However, he wasn't surprised. In the past, he wasn't famous among the races of the primal chaos, and he didn't really receive the inheritance of the Rezegu people, so he couldn't be considered the inheritor of the Rezegu people. Naturally, he wasn't known by the former slaves of the Rezegu people. Now that Su Fong's name had spread far and wide, they naturally jumped out one after another. You're not my match, and I'm not interested in your challenge. Moreover, the Rezegu people have been dead for so many years, and your terrifying soul race has already regained your freedom. The reason you want to challenge me is laughable, so you must have other motives. I won't accept your challenge. Su Fong's sharp gaze seemed to be able to see through the lion-faced cultivator's heart. The lion-faced cultivator's heart skipped a beat, and he trembled. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "What, you don't dare? Don't dare? Do you have the right to challenge me?" Su Fong smiled embarrassedly. He activated the Luai's original realm's origin sealed inside the Tao Palace, and an aura disappeared into nothingness. The human cultivators discussed animatedly, secretly mocking the lion-faced cultivator for overestimating himself. Boom! Rumble! After a thunderous sound, the heavenly gate condensed from lightning appeared above Su Fong. Su Fong flashed through the heavenly gate and directly entered the Luai's original realm. Su Fong directly appeared in the space-time inside the Luai's original realm, but not in the sixth heaven, but in an unfamiliar space. Vast in the vast space, there were layers of space-time. In each space-time, there were material mystic realms. These realms were filled with boundless spirit chi and ancient origin aura, and the heavenly Tao laws were more profound and profound. In the space-time, the ethereal heavenly Tao seemed to be within reach. This is the seventh heaven of the Luai's original realm? Su Fong was surprised. Realmling's figure slowly appeared, and she nodded at Su Fong and said, "Your Highness Su Fong has completed the eternal heavenly path, which means that you have completed the test of the seventh heaven. You can enter and exit the seventh heaven with ease. In other words, I can open up a cave abode in the seventh heaven, and let all Daozu and Dao saints enter the seventh heaven to cultivate?" Although the sixth heaven's cultivation environment was not bad, it was barely enough for Daozu experts to live in. Time too long, it would not be good for cultivation, and it would be very difficult to give birth to more Daozu. Realm the seventh heaven's space-time could allow Daozu experts to cultivate, and it also meant that more Daozu experts could be nurtured in the future. Chapter 3305. Su Fong immediately transmitted his thoughts to the Dongxian Daozu and the other Daozu powerhouses, moving them all to the seventh layer of heaven and allowing them to open up their own cave abode. Sensing the environment of the seventh layer of heaven, all the human Daozu were overjoyed. Su Fong also moved all the subordinates who were preparing to use the heavenly Dao fruit to break through to the Daozu to the seventh layer of heaven. This way, their chances of breaking through to the Daozu would be higher. However, Su Fong then released all the Daozu subordinates in the Xianwang avatar. These Daozu were all foreign Daozu that Su Fong had suppressed. On the Eternal Heavens Road, they had sacrificed a portion of their lives for Su Fong. Now, all of them looked dispirited. Su Fong took out a large number of pills and spiritual items and distributed them to the Daozu subordinate. Then, he let them find a time and space in the seventh layer of heaven to open up a dojo and cultivate to recover. After settling the Daozu powerhouses, Su Fong couldn't wait to ask, "Lord Realm Spirit, you said that the eighth layer of heaven's trial will give us a powerful boost. What is it?" Ling chuckled, don't worry. Let's first redeem the reward of the seventh layer of heaven's trial. It won't be too late to talk about the eighth layer of heaven." At the mention of the reward, Su Fong's spirit immediately became hale and hearty. The reward of each layer of heaven was incomparably shocking. The reward of passing the seventh layer of heaven's trial would definitely be extraordinary. Realm Spirit said, back then, the Reizeigu people were incomparably powerful. Wherever the supreme battle flag went, tens of thousands of races would submit. Such a powerful race naturally had countless vassal races, some of which became the Reizeigu people's slave races. At the mention of the Reizeigu people's slave races, Su Fong immediately thought of the mist barbarian race and the intimidating spirit race. He asked, "Lord Realm Spirit, how many slave races did the Reizeigu people have in the past?" "Not many, only 100 or so races." 100 or so slave races. It's already quite a lot. Realm Spirit glanced at Su Fong and said domineeringly, "You probably think that the Reizeigu people don't have enough slaves, right? It's not that the Reizeigu people don't have the ability to subdue more races. It's just that the Reizeigu people don't even care about ordinary races. They don't have the right to be slaves." After a while, Realm Spirit said proudly, "These 100 or so slaves were begging the Reizeigu people to become slaves. The Reizeigu people had no choice but to reluctantly agree because they were loyal and had decent overall strength. More than 100 tribes begging to become the slaves of the Reizeigu people? How could the higher-ups of the Zaigu clan be so picky and reluctantly accept these slaves?" Su Fong was dumbstruck. The strength of the Reizeigu people was far beyond his imagination. Realm Spirit continued, "I've used the original realm to sense that the Reizeigu people have been dead for countless years. Many of their races have already perished. There aren't many races left, only 13 of them. 13 races is quite a lot. However, after so many years, the slaves of the Reizeigu people will definitely not continue to serve me, the inheritor of the Reizeigu people. Your Highness Su Fong, don't worry. The Reizeigu people have planted slave seals in the fate and bloodline of the remaining slaves. Unless they reach the immortal level, they won't be able to get rid of the shackles of the slave seals for generations." Su Fong's eyes suddenly brightened. You mean, if I obtain the inheritance of the Rezegu people, I can control these races? That's right. This is the reward for passing the 7th level heaven of the original realm. Realm Spirit waved his hand and grabbed a Xian Guang. Xian the light enveloped more than 100 blood-colored runes. The blood-colored runes sealed a shocking amount of life blood energy and fate energy. Their auras were completely different, but they were all extremely deep and high-level blood energy condensation, as well as the ethereal fate energy. However, some of these blood talismans were gray in color, while others were blood red in color, bright red and glistening. These are the blood runes used to control the slaves. As long as you fuse with these blood runes, you can use the blood runes to control the slaves. Any cultivator with the blood of the slaves will have no choice but to submit. The gray blood runes mean that the slaves have already perished and no bloodline has been passed down. The blood runes that are exuberant with blood energy mean that the race is now extremely powerful and has a large population. Fong sighed. The Rezegu people were so domineering in the past. They used this method to control the slaves. Generations of the slaves will be enslaved by the Rezegu people. He felt a lingering fear in his heart. If the slaves continued to stay in the Jiuquan realm of the gods, they would either perish in the long river of history, or be subdued by a powerful race like the slaves of the Rezegu people. They would be enslaved by a powerful race for generations. Boundary Spirit snorted. These slaves took the initiative to do so. It has nothing to do with the Rezegu people. I'm afraid that the slaves are going back on their word now. Su Fong smiled embarrassedly. He happily stored the blood runes in his Dao palace and sealed them. Yes. With these blood runes, he could control the slave. The power of the human race would soar countless times. It would not be difficult for them to rise among the thousands of races. The Rezegu race had such a strong foundation. Even though they had perished for countless years, they still left behind some methods to continue controlling the slave. Boundary Spirit then reminded Su Fong, Prince Su Fong hasn't reached the undying realm yet. It won't be easy for him to control the slaves. The slaves will not be willing to continue being enslaved by Prince Su Fong. I understand. Of course, Fong understood. Just as soon as he entered the Eternal Shrine, the undying warrior of the Mist Barbarian race jumped out. Not only did he want to get rid of the slave seal, but he also wanted to fight for the inheritance of the Rezegu people. As soon as he left the Eternal Shrine, another great being from the spirit race came to challenge him. There were also other races. They would not be willing to be controlled by Su Fong. It would not be easy to completely control the slaves. Then Su Fong asked about the Mist Barbarian race and the Spirit race. Boundary Spirit snorted. How dare the Mist Barbarian race and the Spirit race be so arrogant? Even if the Mist Barbarian race has an undying warrior, they will still be the slaves of the Rezegu people. Unless the undying warrior of the Mist Barbarian race uses a supreme forbidden technique to completely change the bloodline of all the people and change their fate. As for the spirit race, they don't have an undying warrior, so they can't do much. However, Prince Su Fong should be prepared to accept the challenge from the leader of the spirit race. Spirit's words surprised Su Fong. Do I have to accept the challenge from the spirit race? That's right. When the Rezegu people subdued the slaves, they made a very domineering decision. Once the slaves submit to the Rezegu people, they will have to be slaves for generations. If they want to get rid of the Rezegu people, they will have to defeat the strongest of the Rezegu people. With the strength of the Rezegu people back then, which slave race warrior can defeat the strongest of the Rezegu people? And no one dares to challenge them. Right now, only Prince Su Fong is the inheritor of the Rezegu people. If there is a slave race warrior who challenges you, only you can accept the challenge. Su Fong understood. While receiving the inheritance of the Rezegu people, he also had to take on the responsibility of the Rezegu people. With his current strength, no one below the undying level could match him. He could even fight normal undying. Naturally, he was not afraid of any challenges. Su Fang continued, "Don't worry about the slaves for now. You said before that when you reach the 8th level of heaven, you will receive the powerful help left by the Reizeigu people. What is that?" This was what Su Fang was most concerned about. Wheelzhuan Yuan ancestor, the Tensei people, the Qian Yuan race, Tai Hun Tian, the Mist barbarian race, and many other undying warriors who coveted the inheritance of the Reizeigu people would definitely not give up. So even though Fang was in the Eternal Shrine, it was difficult for him to deal with so many strong warriors and forces. As long as Prince Su Fang passes the 8th level of heaven, other than the 3 supreme royal families, why should we be afraid of the other strong warriors and forces? Spirit smiled domineeringly. "Prince Su Fang, follow me." Spirit let Su Fang leave a part of his consciousness and go to the deepest part of the 7th level of heaven. He entered an independent space that was heavily sealed. Time Sky was a small cave residence condensed from strange chaos materials. Inside, a chaotic Xian Guang floated inside the cave. A black treasure was shrouded in it. The shape of the treasure was like a conch. It was dark and covered with thunder patterns. It emitted an aura of eternal immortality and heavenly destruction. It was a primordial heavenly treasure. Su Fang asked in surprise, "Lord Realm Spirit, the trump card of the Reizeigu people you mentioned is this primordial heavenly treasure?" "That's right, but not all of it." Spirit smiled embarrassedly. "Su Fang," he suddenly asked, "Prince Su Fang, you should know about the 3 supreme royal families, right?" Fang nodded and said, "I know a little. This time, the one who presided over the meeting of the Eternal Shrine is an undying warrior from the Golden Horn race." Realm Spirit then asked, "Prince Su Fang, do you know why the 3 supreme royal families are above the other races?" Fang answered without hesitation, "Naturally, it's because the 3 supreme royal families are strong as a whole. They are above the other races. It's not just because of their strength. The reason why the 3 supreme royal families are above the other races is not just because of their overall strength, but also because of their origin." Fang asked in surprise, "What's the origin of the 3 supreme royal families?" Spirit continued to explain to Su Fang, "The reason why the 3 great royal clans are able to reign above all other races is because their progenitors are the embodiment of the will of the heavenly Tao. The 3 great royal clans are actually the representatives of the will of the heavenly Tao in the chaos." Su Fangdao was shocked. The representatives of the will of heavenly Tao? The ethereal will of heavenly Tao also has its own will. The ancestors of the 3 supreme royal families represent the will of heavenly Tao, life, destruction, and punishment. The ancestor of the Golden Horn race that Prince Su Fang saw is the incarnation of the will of heavenly Tao. "I see," Su Fang said. Fang was enlightened. No wonder the 3 supreme royal families are above the other races. Chapter 3306. Su Fang pondered for a moment and asked, "Could the Reizeigu people be related to the 3 supreme royal clans?" Ling nodded and said, "That's right. The reason why the Reizeigu people could become the overlords of all the races back then was because the Reizeigu people and the Reizeigu people came from the same source. The Reizeigu people were the main bloodline, and the Reizeigu people were the offshoot. Otherwise, why would the 3 supreme royal clans not suppress the Reizeigu people when they dominated all the races in the primal chaos?" Fang sighed and said, "I didn't expect the Reizeigu people to have such a powerful background." Realm Spirit sighed faintly and said, "It's a pity that the Reizeigu people became too arrogant because they were too powerful. They wanted to be like the 3 supreme royal clans and open up spacetime in the supreme heavenly Tao so that their people could become immortal like the 3 supreme royal clans. In the end, they were punished by the heavens. Along with the immortal experts, the entire Reizeigu people were wiped out." Fang was puzzled and asked, "Since the Reizeigu people and the Reizeigu people came from the same source, why didn't the Reizeigu people save them when they were punished by the heavens? Also, why didn't the embodiment of the heavenly Tao's heaven exterminating will do anything?" Ling snorted and said, Although the Reizeigu people are the descendants of the embodiment of the heavenly Tao's heaven-exterminating will, they are not the embodiment of the heavenly Tao's heaven-exterminating will. Even if they wanted to stop it, they could not. The heavenly Tao is heartless. Even if the Reizeigu people were punished by the heavens, the embodiment of the heavenly Tao's heaven-exterminating will would not appear to save them, let alone the Reizeigu people. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly and said, "I was too naive." He then looked at the Hong Meng heavenly treasure and asked, "Could this Hong Meng heavenly treasure be related to the Grand Primes?" "That's right," Ling explained. Thunder, when the Reizeigu race was about to be destroyed, the immortal of the race knew that the Reizeigu people could not escape the fate of destruction. Hence, they asked the Reizeigu people for help. Too, the thunder had even awakened the heavenly Tao's heaven-exterminating will, but they could not change the fate of the Reizeigu people. However, the sky-exterminating will had given the Luai's ancient race a chance and allowed them to leave behind their legacy. Su He immediately understood. The conch-shaped primordial heavenly treasure was the treasure left behind by the heaven-exterminating will. Realm Spirit explained, "This treasure is called the heaven-exterminating magic conch. Activating this treasure can awaken a powerful will left behind by the heaven-exterminating will, helping the Reizeigu people pass on their immortality." The Zhe ancient race had left behind their inheritance in the Leisha original realm. In order to prevent the inheritance from falling into the hands of mediocre people, they had left behind 9 tests in the Leisha original realm. Rei being the successor of the Zhe-gu clan was naturally not an easy task. The Reizeigu people's 9 levels of heaven tests left behind by the Undying Realm warriors were not easy. No, the eternal path of heavens was a trial that even the most talented geniuses of the myriad races would find difficult to pass. Su Fang's eyes shone brightly. "As long as I can activate this annihilating magic conch, I can awaken the annihilating will in the magic conch. At that time, even the 3 supreme royal families won't be able to suppress me, let alone the Tensei people and the Qian Yuan clan." "Don't be too happy just yet." Realm Spirit poured a bucket of cold water on Su Fang without hesitation. "First of all, if you want to merge with the heaven-exterminating magic conch and awaken the heaven-exterminating will, it won't be as easy as you think. Secondly, the heaven-exterminating magic conch can only be used once before it is retrieved by the heaven-exterminating will. The heaven-exterminating will can only protect the inheritance of the Reizeigu people. As for the future, it will depend on your own efforts. It's fine. No matter how difficult it is, it's only a primordial heavenly treasure. I don't believe there's a primordial heavenly treasure that I can't merge with. As long as I can intimidate the Tensei people, the Qian Yuan clan, and the Undying Realm experts who are after the Lightning Parasol inheritance, I will work hard to become an Undying Realm expert and lead the human race to expand our territory among the other races. I will stand proudly among the races." The imperious aura of a peerless ruler burst out from his body. Realm Spirit clicked his tongue and complimented, "That's right. You have the heart of a cultivator, which is why you are able to reach such heights and complete the trials of the Lightning original realm. However, the strength of an individual is limited. Therefore, the heaven-exterminating magic conch will be your greatest reliance in the chaos space. As long as you can use the heaven-exterminating magic conch, the Great Thunder Tribe will place great importance on you and support you. After all, the Reizeigu people are a branch of the Great Thunder Tribe, and you are the successor of the Reizeigu people." Su Fang looked at the heaven-exterminating magic conch with great anticipation. Then he asked curiously, "Master Realm Spirit, what is the trial of the 9th heaven of the Lightning original realm?" Realm Spirit chuckled, "The trial of the 9th heaven is not difficult for you. It will take you a long time. You will know when the time comes. It's meaningless for me to tell you now. You should focus on merging with the heaven-exterminating magic conch." Realm Spirit was keeping him in suspense. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly and did not ask any further. The will returned to his body and absorbed the heaven-exterminating magic conch into the Tao Palace. Next, I have to do my best to merge with the heaven-exterminating magic conch. Crossing the Eternal Heavens Road was the first step for Su Fong to join the chaos space. The heaven-exterminating magic conch was Su Fong's greatest reliance in leading the human race to establish a foothold in the chaos space. Therefore, Su Fong had to do his best to merge with the heaven-exterminating magic conch. Su Fong projected his sensing power and covered every corner of the 7 heavens of the Lightning Zhe original realm. Look, in the first heaven, his son Su Xianyun was searching for treasures with a group of mercenaries in the barren land of Extremis. He also saw the human race from the Pan Tsong universe and Su Fong universe, the Big Goblin, and the human cultivators from the Jiuxuan divine realm from the first heaven to the 7th heaven. Because the human race is weak and I don't have any power, background or foundation, even though I've completed the Eternal Heavens Road and made my name known to all races, Lunzhuan origin ancestor, Qianyuan clan, Tensei people, and Tai Hun Tian are still looking down on me. Even the slaves of the Reizegu people jumped out to challenge me. Since I don't have a backer, I'll be the backer of the entire human race. I want my son and the entire human race to walk out of the Lightning Zhe original realm and stand proudly at the top of all races. Su Fong retracted his sensing power and showed his dominance. Then, Su Fong entered the divine origin pool and started to merge with the heaven-exterminating magic conch. He took out the heaven-exterminating magic conch from the Tao Palace. Ning He sized up the heaven-exterminating magic conch. This, the primordial chaos heavenly treasure, was pitch black and covered with natural divine runes. It looked like a naturally formed conch. Annihilate the heaven-exterminating magic conch's aura contained the heavenly Tao's destruction truth that frightened Su Fong. It was deadly silent. The primordial heavenly treasure left behind by the will of the heavenly Tao was certainly not to be underestimated. It was much more powerful than the longevity lamp and the supreme battle flag. Start merging. Su Fong peeled off a drop of blood and floated it toward the heaven-exterminating magic conch. Su Fong couldn't help but feel a little nervous. His eyes widened and his heart almost jumped out of his throat. The blood-red light enveloped the heaven-exterminating magic conch and seeped into it quickly. It didn't reject Su Fong's blood. Little did Su Fong know it didn't reject the blood. When the drop of blood seeped into the heaven-exterminating magic conch, it disappeared without a trace. Su Fong could only vaguely sense it. Seems like I need more blood to merge with the heaven-exterminating magic conch, Su Fong muttered. Su Fong condensed another dozen drops of blood and dripped them onto the heaven-exterminating magic conch. The heaven-exterminating magic conch was like a sponge that instantly sucked in the blood. To Su Fong's disappointment, there was still no movement. Some of the runes on the surface of the heaven-exterminating magic conch didn't move at all. Su Fong's consciousness couldn't penetrate it at all. There was no way. There was no other way. Su Fong could only continue to peel off the blood and let it seep into the heaven-exterminating magic conch. After consuming almost 1/3 of Su Fong's blood, some of the runes on the surface of the heaven-exterminating magic conch started to loosen. It was like a passage. The lightning runes started to surge. Su Fong also had the feeling of merging with the heaven-exterminating magic conch. His consciousness seeped into the conch and entered the internal space. No wonder the realm spirits said it wasn't easy to activate the heaven-exterminating magic conch. Just merging with it took a lot of energy from Su Fong. After consuming almost 1/3 of his blood, an ordinary Daozu would have collapsed from the loss of too much life force. Su Fong hurriedly swallowed a 9-flower jade pill. It wasn't an ordinary 9-flower jade pill. It was the 3 most powerful 9-flower jade pills that the Divine Mother of the Precious Tree gave him outside Tongtian Island. His life force and blood qi recovered slightly. Su Fong continued to refine the pill to recover while he sent his consciousness into the internal space of the heaven-exterminating magic conch. The interior of the heaven-exterminating magic conch was a vast world of formations, seals, and runes. The entire internal space was filled with a terrifying aura of destruction. It was 10,000 times more terrifying than Su Fang's great returning ruin technique. This wasn't an ordinary aura. It came from the supreme heavenly Tao. Although Su Fang also faintly sensed that there was an extremely powerful will sleeping inside the heaven-exterminating magic conch. Su Fang's consciousness also felt frightened inside the formation. It was as if he was facing heavenly punishment. Then, although the sleeping will wasn't heavenly punishment, it was at the same level as heavenly punishment. It was also the supreme heaven-exterminating will. Then, after merging for a long time, Su Fang started to condense his consciousness and enter it. He grasped the entire formation of the heaven-exterminating magic conch and countless mysterious seals. Only by completely grasping the formation and seals could he activate the heaven-exterminating magic conch and awaken the sleeping heaven-exterminating will. Poof! Poof! Those formations and seals contained the most original and most profound truths of the heavenly Tao. Even though Su Fang was at the same level of cultivation as the immortal realm, he couldn't withstand too much pressure. Poof! Poof! The realm spirit wasn't lying. It wasn't easy to merge with the heaven-exterminating magic conch. It was even harder to control the entire heaven-exterminating magic conch. Su Fang estimated that at this speed, he wouldn't be able to merge all the formations and seals even after 10 eras. Okay. This was the divine origin pool. Time didn't mean much to Su Fang. 10 eras was acceptable to Su Fang. It was just that the merging process was too painful. It was an extremely difficult test for Su Fang. No. Su Fang had no choice but to merge. Chapter 3307. Countless years passed. Su Fang merged with the heaven-destroying magic conch in the divine origin pool and completely forgot about the passage of time. Until this day. Su Fang suddenly opened his eyes and took out a golden token. It was the Hong Meng token. That's it. A majestic voice came from the Hong Meng token. Su Fang, the inheritor of the Reizeigu people, come to the eternal shrine immediately. Su Fang raised his eyebrows and sent a thought into the Hong Meng token. It came to a formation inside the Hong Meng token. The formation released a godly power and sent the thought out. It instantly transcended the heavy shackles of the original Luai's realm. The thought was sent into the eternal shrine by the godly power of the Hong Meng token. It turned into Su Fang's figure. The eternal shrine was empty. There was only a cultivator in a white robe sitting cross-legged on a cushion in the middle of the shrine. That cultivator in a white robe was only 17 years old. He had a flawless face. His facial features, skin, and hair were all exquisite. He could be called perfect. The white-robed cultivator's aura was void. It had merged with the Great Way. He was also an immortal realm expert. He was even more powerful than the immortal realm expert from the Gold Horn race. Greetings, Lord Grand Beginning. Su Fang cupped his fists and bowed politely. That's it. The white-robed cultivator was from the Grand Beginning race, one of the 3 supreme royal races. 3. The supreme royal races originated from the 3 great will incarnations of the Great Way: create heaven, destroy heaven, and punish heaven. The ancestor of the Grand Beginning race was the incarnation of the Great Ways will create heaven. The white-robed cultivator nodded. You don't have to be so polite. The Mist Barbarian race, the Intimidating Spirit race, and the other 13 races have jointly requested the Eternal Shrine to challenge you, the inheritor of the Reizeigu people. It's my turn to be on duty. That's why I called you here. The slaves of the Reizeigu people want to challenge me? Su Fang was startled. He didn't expect the slaves of the Reizeigu people would really challenge him. The Reizeigu people promised that as long as the slaves of the Reizeigu people had a cultivator who could defeat the strongest of the Reizeigu people, they could get rid of the bloodline, fate, and the slave seal. The Eternal Shrine doesn't care about the other races, but for those races with immortal realm experts, the Eternal Shrine has no choice but to take care of them. The white-robed cultivator explained. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. What if I don't want to accept the challenge? If you don't accept the challenge, the robed cultivator said imposingly, then those races with undying experts will have a reason to act against you. The eternal laws will no longer restrict them. Su Fang asked, do I have to accept the challenge from the undying fighters of the slave race? The challenger's cultivation level must be at the same level as yours, hence the undying realm experts cannot make a move against you. Fang's heart instantly calmed down. As long as the immortal realm experts didn't make a move, which Daozu could do anything to him. Same as Su Fang was also filled with doubts. After walking the eternal heavens road, the myriad races were shocked. The 13 serval races were not unaware of this. Now, they actually took the initiative to challenge him. He really did not know where their courage came from. They definitely had nothing to fear. I don't care what kind of conspiracy they have. I will crush them with my strength. Su Fang revealed a domineering smile. Then, he said decisively, 1,000 years later, I will accept the challenge from the 13 serval races on Tongtian Island. No matter if they have undying realm experts or not, I will accept all of their challenges. The white-robed cultivator nodded and said, that's great. Fang's consciousness left the eternal shrine and returned to the body of his original body in the Luai's original realm. The 13 serval races dare to join forces to challenge me. They must have something to rely on. It is highly likely that they were instigated by the Tensei people and the Qianyuan race. Su Fang was vigilant, but he did not take the 13 serval races challenge seriously. 1,000 years in the outside world was almost 10 eras in the divine origin pool. Su Fang estimated that by that time, he would have almost merged with the heaven-destroying magic conch. Even if the Tensei people and the Qianyuan race had a conspiracy, what could they do? Except, Su Fang started to merge with the heaven-destroying magic conch. Time flew by. Su Fang kept merging with the heaven-destroying magic conch, mastering formations and seals. 1 level, 2 levels, 3 levels, 5 levels, Su Fang kept merging with the heaven-destroying magic conch until he reached 7 levels. It was slightly different from what Su Fang had estimated. The more he merged with the heaven-destroying magic conch, the harder it was to master the formations and seals, and the longer it would take. 1,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. Su Fang had spent almost 10 eras in the divine origin pool. One day, Su Fang opened his eyes. It was time to accept the challenge from the 13 serval races. Almost 10 eras have passed just like that. Su Fang murmured. He was in a trance for a while, feeling as if a lifetime had passed. I have only merged with 8 levels of the heaven-destroying magic conch. I have to continue. Su Fang's blood fiend Dharma body flashed out of his body. Not only the blood fiend Dharma body, but the heavenly coffin Dharma body, the imperial heaven Dharma body, and the longevity Dharma body were also in the blood fiend Dharma body. However, then, he asked Realm Spirit to send the blood fiend Dharma body to Tongtian Island through the divine power of the Luai's original realm. Originally, Su Fang planned to accept the challenge from the 13 serval races with his Dharma body, while his original body stayed in the divine origin pool to merge with the heaven-destroying magic conch as soon as possible. Tongtian Island 10. 3 foreign race cultivators gathered on a mountain peak. They were cultivators from the Mist Barbarian race, the Intimidating Spirit race, and other former Reizeigu people's slave races. They were all top Daozu experts. They gathered here to challenge Su Fang. Apart. After the Eternal Heavenly Road, cultivators were not allowed to enter Tongtian Island. However, Su Fang accepted the challenge from the 13 serval races on behalf of the Eternal Temple. Therefore, the location of the challenge was set on Tongtian Island. Hundreds of thousands of foreign race cultivators gathered outside Tongtian Island. They were cultivators from the 13 serval races and many other races. This battle concerned the fate of the 13 serval races. Every cultivator from the 13 serval races was nervous and excited. They waited for a long time. Late. Su Fong did not show up. The challengers from the 13 serval races on Tongtian Island started to get anxious. It's been 1,000 years, but Su Fong still hasn't shown up. Could it be that he's too timid to come? Humph, the Eternal Temple has shown up. How dare he not come? As long as he dares to come to Tongtian Island, we'll make sure he doesn't return. I wasn't there when he challenged the Eternal Heavenly Road. This time, I'd like to see what kind of person that human cultivator is. How dare he try to control the fate of our races? Some of the challengers from the 13 serval races were discussing and mocking Su Fong. Hee. The lion-faced cultivator let out a disdainful sneer when he heard these experts' discussion. Then, he shouted coldly, "All of you, shut up!" Su Fong was able to complete the Eternal Heavenly Road and create an unprecedented miracle. How can we underestimate him? If you underestimate Su Fong, you won't even know how you died when you fight him. The challengers from the 13 serval races all shut up. Some looked unconvinced, while others were resentful. Rumble. In the void outside Tongtian Island, there was a thunderous roar, and the heavenly gate appeared. Su Fong's blood demon avatar flashed out of the heavenly gate. Su Fong is finally here. There was a commotion among the foreign race cultivators outside Tongtian Island. They looked at Su Fong with fear and respect in their eyes. Tongtian Island. The challengers from the 13 serval races on Tongtian Island were all nervous. Even the challengers who had just scoffed at Su Fong looked as if they were facing a great enemy. Whoosh! Su Fong's figure flashed, and he teleported to the inner space of Tongtian Island. He appeared above the mountain where the cultivators from the 13 serval races were. It's not Su Fong's true body, but a Dharma body. The lion-faced cultivator from the intimidating race scanned Su Fong's body with his divine light and immediately saw through it. Soon he shouted in a low voice, "Su Fong, since you agreed to the challenge, why did you only bring a Dharma body?" Su Fong's blood demon avatar smiled casually. "My Dharma body is enough to deal with slave races like you." The domineering aura of looking down on the strong and looking down on everyone appeared spontaneously at this moment. The challengers from the 13 serval races did not expect Su Fong to look down on them like this. They were all furious. Tongtian Island. The cultivators outside Tongtian Island were also in an uproar. As expected of Su Fong, who completed the Eternal Heavenly Road. He's so domineering. He's too arrogant. Su Fong has not reached the immortal realm, but he dares to look down on the 13 serval races. He's too arrogant. Su Fong is too arrogant. This time, he might suffer a big setback. Everyone said. Many of the foreign race cultivators were discussing. Some were impressed by Su Fong's domineering aura, while others thought that Su Fong was too arrogant. Intimidate. The lion-faced cultivator from the spirit race shouted coldly, "Su Fong, no matter if you fight with your Dharma body or your true body, since you've accepted the challenge, you must fulfill your promise." Su Fong nodded his head and said, "Okay." The challengers from the 13 serval races immediately became spirited. Su Fong had completed the Eternal Heavenly Road, and his name had shaken the 10,000 serval races. With such a great reputation, the powerhouses from the 13 serval races might have said that they were unyielding, but which one of them was not afraid in their hearts? Now, since Su Fong only sent his Dharma body to fight, they had a chance. A Daozu from the Mist Barbarian race shouted domineeringly, "Su Fong, if you lose, not only must you remove the slave seal of my race, but you must also return all the resources that the Rezegu people plundered from my race in the past." The lion-faced cultivator from the spirit race also said, "In the past, the Rezegu people enslaved my spirit race and plundered countless resources and treasures from my race. If you lose this time, you must spit them all out." The other cultivators from the 13 serval races also shouted angrily, "Enslave you?" Su Fong's cold gaze swept past the 13 powerhouses, and he sneered disdainfully. "When the Rezegu people were strong and powerful, you took the initiative to join the Rezegu people, crying and begging to become the Rezegu people's slaves. Now that the Rezegu people have perished, not only have you betrayed the Rezegu people, but you've also tried in vain to get your hands on the Rezegu people's inheritance. Among the 10,000 serval races, there is actually a race as shameless as you. Even I, Su Fong, feel ashamed for you. It's no wonder that you became the Rezegu people's slave. I'm giving the 13 serval races a chance to challenge me because I want to tell you that once you're a slave, you'll be a slave for generations to come. In the past, you were the slaves of the Rezegu people, but now and in the future, you will be the slaves of my Su Fong for generations to come. Chapter 3308. Su Fong's overbearing words made the great beings of the 13 slave clans on the mountain, as well as the cultivators of the 13 slave clans outside of Tongtian Island furious, and they all shouted angrily. Once a slave, forever a slave. What an overbearing human ant! A cold snort came from the void, and then figures walked out of the sky above Tongtian Island. There were undying great beings from the Tensei people and the Qianyuan clan, the seventh ancestor of the Tensei people and the young man from the Qianyuan clan, as well as the undying great beings from the Mist Barbarian race and Tai Hun Tian. There were 15 undying great beings in total. Of course, they weren't in their true bodies, but thought incarnations. Just the one who spoke was the undying great being from the Mist Barbarian race. His eyes flashed with an overbearing luster as he stared at Su Fong and said indifferently, "I'd like to see how a mere human ant like you can enslave the Mist Barbarian race forever." The seventh ancestor of the Tensei people snorted and said, "This human ant has always been arrogant and condescending. What's so strange about him saying such arrogant words?" Su Fong's godly light swept across the many undying great beings. Now, it was certain that the challenge from the 13 slave clans was instigated by the Tensei people and the Qianyuan clan. And it wasn't just a simple challenge to Su Fong. There must be some other conspiracy. The undying great being from the Mist Barbarian race snorted and said, "The Rezegu people are so powerful that we have to submit to them. Now that the Rezegu people are gone, you're the only inheritor left. And you're just a low-level human monk, an ant. What right do you have to continue being the master of our race? Remove the slave seals from our clansmen and spit out everything the Rezegu people took from us." Su Fong glanced at the undying great beings coldly and said without any courtesy, "I'm from the Eternal Shrine, and I'm on the same level as you. You keep calling me an ant. Doesn't that mean you're an ant yourself? Or do you dare to look down on the Eternal Shrine?" The undying of the Mist Barbarian race and the seventh ancestor of the Tensei people instantly changed their expressions. The young man from the Heaven Origin clan snorted, "Su Fong, this is a battle between you and the 13 clans. We are just here to watch, not to argue with you. All of you shut up. A bunch of undyings actually dare to chatter here and disturb my sleep. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at?" Just as Su Fong was about to retort, a figure appeared out of thin air. It was none other than the old man guarding Clear Sky Island. When the Immortal Realm experts saw the old man, their faces turned solemn. They didn't look as arrogant as before. Clearly, this old man guarding Clear Sky Island was extraordinary in both strength and status. Even these high and mighty Immortal Realm experts had to be wary of him. Su Fong greets the guardian of Tongtian Island. Su Fong politely saluted the old man with cupped fists. Before challenging the Eternal Heavens Road, it was fortunate that he had obtained a lot of information about the Eternal Heavens Road from this old man. Otherwise, Su Fong would not have been able to complete the Eternal Heavens Road so easily. Because he was very grateful to this old man, so he was very polite and respectful in front of him. "Yes." The old man nodded at Su Fong, very satisfied with Su Fong's attitude. Then he laughed and said, "You put the challenge of the 13 slave clans on Clear Sky Island, so I couldn't sleep well. I still have to preside over the battle between you and the challengers of the 13 clans. Do you have any objections to the arrangement of the Eternal Shrine?" Su Fong said, "Su Fong has no objections. The old man looked at the challengers of the 13 clans and asked in a low voice, "What about you?" The challengers of the 13 clans nodded. Who dared to have any objections? Clear Sky Island. The guardian of Clear Sky Island nodded with satisfaction and looked at Su Fong. "This battle is not difficult for you, but you are too arrogant to accept the challenge as a Dharmakaya. It's not too late to ask your original body to come." Su Fong glanced at the 13 challengers indifferently and smiled embarrassedly. "Thank you for your reminder, sir. Against these slave clans, if I accept the challenge with my original body, won't it damage the reputation of the Reizeigu people in the past? Even the reputation of the Eternal Shrine will be damaged together with it." "Not bad, you have some of the aggressiveness of the Reizeigu people in the past. I like it." The old man smiled embarrassedly and said, "Since there are no objections, then get ready to start the challenge." After that, the old man flicked his finger and a thought fell on the mountain peak. It quickly turned into a spacetime. The spacetime seemed to be only 100 feet in size from the outside, but the inside was vast and boundless. It allowed the Daozu powerhouses to use their strength at will. Tong, the guardian of Clear Sky Island, said, "Before the challenge begins, I will tell you the rules." Su Fong and the challengers of the 13 slave clans all listened attentively. This time, the 13 clans are challenging the strongest of the Reizeigu people in order to get rid of the slave imprint. Therefore, during the challenge you can use any means, including any skills, runes, treasures, regardless of life and death. However, during the challenge, Su Fong, you are not allowed to use any means to control the slave clans. Otherwise, it will be a violation of the rules. Also, I am only responsible for judging the challenge. After the challenge, the dispute between the 13 clans and Su Fong, I can't and don't want to care. The so-called rules of Clear Sky Island meant that there were no rules. Any means could be used without any scruples. Then the old man looked at Su Fong. "Because this is the promise of the Reizeigu people in the past, and it also involves the Immortal Realm powerhouses, therefore, no matter the outcome, it will be unfair to you. What do you have to say?" Su Fong said, "I have nothing to say. However, I have a request." "Speak." "When I was challenging the Eternal Heavenly Road, there were Immortal Realm powerhouses who ignored the Eternal Shrine and the Golden Horn clan. They attacked me in public. I am worried that in this challenge, there will still be people who will attack without restraint. Lord, please chase all unrelated people out of Clear Sky Island." Fong's words made the Immortal Realm powerhouses furious. Lun Zhuan, Origin Ancestor's eyebrows furrowed, and the vision of Heavenly Tao reincarnation surged in his eyes. He was obviously furious. Above this time, because he attacked Su Fong, Lun Zhuan, Origin Ancestor, refused to release Shi Xian Daozu. Not only did he offend the Golden Horn clan, he was also severely punished and had a part of his power sealed by the Golden Horn clan. Now Lun Zhuan, Origin Ancestor's scars were exposed in front of everyone in Su Fong. How could he not be angry? Clear Sky Island's guardian laughed. "Your concerns are reasonable. There will always be some shameless powerhouses. Immortal Realm powerhouses, please leave." "Shameless?" Lun Zhuan, Origin Ancestor, was so angry that this thought clone almost collapsed. There was no other way. The 15 Immortal Realm powerhouses had to obediently leave Clear Sky Island. Their expressions were not very good. Su Fong's figure flashed and entered the time and space created by the guardian of Clear Sky Island. His domineering gaze swept across the 13 challengers, and he said in a lofty voice, "As a slave clan, you betrayed the Reizeigu people and tried to covet the inheritance of the Reizeigu people. You all deserve to die. Come, who wants to come up and die first?" The 13 challengers were silent for a moment. The challenger shouted coldly, "Su Fong, you are just the inheritor of the Reizeigu people, not a powerhouse of the Reizeigu people. How can you continue to enslave my clan? I, Kong Tianlai of the Hollow Crow clan, challenge you." Then he stepped into the time and space of the battle. Hollow Crow clan? Fang Shengguang wrapped around the challenger's body. After accepting the challenge of the 13 slave clans, Su Fang specifically asked Realm Spirit about the details of the 13 clans. Although the 13 clans were all slave clans of the Reizeigu people, their overall strength was very shocking. The Hollow Crow clan was one of the 13 clans. They were born with the ability of the Great Tao of Space. Although there were no immortal realm powerhouses in the clan, their overall strength was not low. This Kong Tianlai of the Hollow Crow clan was a peak-level powerhouse of the Daozu clan. He had at least 90% of the strength of the Daozu clan. Moreover, his Great Tao of Space attack and defense were extremely powerful. Sky-splitting divine technique. Split. Heaven Breaker put his palms together, and when he abruptly separated them, a heavenly law that could tear through everything exploded from his palms. A crack was forcefully torn open in space, and like a sharp blade, it instantly charged towards Su Fang. Not only could his attack tear through space and time, but it also contained a power that could cut through all things, as well as the will and soul. It was definitely not an ordinary Great Tao of Space attack. How can a Daozu powerhouse's Great Tao of Space attack my will? When Kong Tianlai launched his attack, Su Fang used the will visualization technique. The terrifying will of slaughter condensed into a blood-red blade light that was filled with murderous intent. Kong Tianlia's Great Tao of Space attack was unbelievably fast. However, what Su Fang used was not a Great Tao of Space attack, but a will visualization technique. With a thought, the will of slaughter attack instantly exploded. It was even faster than Kong Tianlia's attack. Qi. Su Fang, after killing countless powerhouses, the Blood Fury Dharma body's strength had reached an astonishing level. His will of slaughter was even above that of the Daozu clan. The blade light condensed from the will of slaughter slashed at Kong Tianlia's Tao heart. It immediately shattered his Tao heart. Even his soul origin was wiped out by the will of slaughter. Kong Tianlai let out a scream and died on the spot. Poof! The space attack condensed by Kong Tianlai burst like a bubble. It was less than a foot away from Su Fang. A peak-level Daozu powerhouse who had 90% of the Daozu limit was killed by Su Fang just like that. Su Fang looked at the remaining 12 challengers and said casually, "Who's next?" The 12 challengers on the mountain peak were all trembling. Kong Tianlai was not the strongest among the challengers of the 13 clans, but he was definitely not the weakest either. Now, he was easily killed by Su Fang. It was enough to prove how powerful Su Fang was. Now, Su Fang's attack was also so ruthless. He killed a peak-level Daozu powerhouse without even moving his eyebrows. Now, outside Sky Island, the Void Crow tribe cultivators who were watching the battle were all angry and desperate. Kong Tianlai was the strongest powerhouse of the Void Crow tribe. Now that he was killed by Su Fang, it meant that the Void Crow tribe could no longer escape the fate of being enslaved by Su Fang. Moreover, Su Fang only sent his Dharma body. Even if the challengers behind him killed him, Su Fang's original body would not die. At most, he would lose some of his strength. The Void Crow tribe's fate was still unchangeable. The blood-ferocious tribe swears that we will never be slaves to a human like you. I challenge you. Chapter 3309. Su Fang's Blood Fiend avatar's cold gaze swept across the Blood Caracal tribe cultivator, then said indifferently, "The Blood Caracal tribe is weaker than the Hollow Crow tribe, and you are weaker than Kong Tianlai. You are just throwing your life away. If you choose to submit to me now, I can spare your life, and I can also promise that I will treat your Blood Caracal tribe well in the future." The 13 tribes would be Su Fang's slaves in the future. Killing these challengers would be the same as damaging his own strength. That was why Su Fang gave this Blood Caracal tribe cultivator a chance. The Blood Caracal tribe can submit to the Reizeigu people, but we will never submit to a lowly human cultivator like you. You dare to look down on me? I will make you pay a heavy price. The Blood Caracal tribe cultivator let out an angry roar, and a vast amount of blood chi surged within his body. Then, A bloody mist gushed out from his body, turning into 18 monsters that looked like blood dragons. Their faces were ferocious, and their auras were evil. They let out sharp screeches as they charged at Su Fang. The Blood Caracal tribe was skilled in the great Tao of blood. Their mystiques could transform into Blood Caracal soul dragons that could devour the blood chi and soul essence of cultivators. Idiot, this is my avatar. Where would I get the blood chi and soul essence for you to devour? 9 suns, burning the heavens. Su Fang sneered disdainfully. Su Fang released 100,000 thoughts that quickly combined and arranged themselves into 9 divine suns that released scorching mystique yang divine aura. Chi chi chi. The 9 divine suns exploded with shocking light and heat, turning into crimson flames that enveloped the Blood Caracal tribe cultivator. The shocking divine aura of fire and the Tao of fire gathered together to form a wave of fire that burned. Screech. The Blood Caracal tribe cultivator Daozu's blood chi was vaporized by Su Fang's mystique yang avatar, and he was reduced to ashes, following in the footsteps of the Hollow Crow tribe cultivator. Another cultivator was easily killed by Su Fang. Who's next? Su Fang looked at the remaining 10 challengers with a cold and lofty gaze. How dare you be so arrogant, Su Fang? I challenge you, the leader of the Mieching tribe. An alien youth let out a cold snort. His figure flashed, and he stepped into the dual spacetime. Sword of Caracal slash. The young man from the Mieching clan waved his hand and grabbed out 1,000,000 thoughts that condensed into a 300-meter-long gray profound sword. It revealed a merciless will of the heavenly Tao that cut off all desires, and it slashed towards Su Fang. Caracal Tao will, S as, Dao Fang, and Dao. Of Dao will, Oza's will. Daozu to try S. Fang Weiran did not move. He looked at the young man from the Mieching clan coldly. Down. Cold down, SSS wills will not to die. Su wills. S Fang to head. You, S Fang S to it to wills will down S will Fang. Impossible. Even if you're a Dharmakaya, you can't ignore my sword of Caracal. The Tao of Tao looked at Su Fang in disbelief. How can an ant like you imagine how high I am? Su Fang smiled domineeringly. His figure flashed, and he appeared in front of the Tao of Tao. Slash. The Tao of Tao once again, and the sword of Caracal slashed down on Su Fang. The result was the same as before. Su Fang punched out. His heart let out the sound of Tao of Heaven, and his killing aura surged out like a tide, killing the Tao of Tao. The third challenger was killed by Su Fang again. Outside the battle dimension, the guardian of Tongtian Island shook his head and sighed. Su Fang can complete the eternal heavenly road. How can he be an ordinary person? Even if he's a Dharmakaya now, he's not someone the Daozu of the 13 clans can challenge. I don't know what these challengers are thinking. Challenging Su Fang? Aren't they digging their own graves? The remaining 9 challengers fell silent. Everyone's heart was trembling. Outside Tongtian Island, the cultivators from the 13 clans and other clans were also silent. They felt a chill run down their spines. The 3 challengers who challenged Su Fang were the top cultivators of the Daozu. They had mastered exceptional Dharmakaya. Now, Su Fang had killed them as easily as killing chickens. Many cultivators realized that Su Fang was not someone they could defeat. The 5 Immortal Realm cultivators stood in the sky outside Tongtian Island. They watched coldly as Su Fang killed the challengers. Each of them had a cold smile on their faces. Then, Su Fang killed another 5 challengers. These challengers were very powerful. However, with Su Fang's current strength, his Dharmakaya could easily kill the challengers. On the mountain peak of Tongtian Island, there were only 5 challengers left. Fang looked at the challengers from the 13 slave clans with a cold gaze. Who's next? The challengers were all trembling as they looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with fear and cowardice. At this moment, The voice of the Mist Barbarian Immortal Realm Cultivator came from outside Tongtian Island. What are you afraid of? Go and kill him. Su Fang, are you done being arrogant? Let's see how long you can be arrogant in my hands. The Mist Barbarian Immortal Realm Cultivator had no choice but to grit his teeth and enter the battle spacetime. Only then did Fang's eyes reveal a dignified look. Lan the Barbarians had Immortal Realm Cultivators. Their overall strength was the strongest among the 13 clans. The Mist Barbarians' innate ability was defense. The Dharmakaya they mastered had amazing defensive abilities. It was said that it was difficult to break through. It specialized in restraining some powerful offensive Dharmakaya. The Mist Barbarian Immortal Realm Cultivator, who came up to challenge Fang, was also a peak-level Daozu cultivator. He had 99% of the Daozu's peak strength. He could not be underestimated. Lan the Barbarian Immortal Realm Cultivator released his thought. In an instant, the shadow of a mountain peak formed in the spacetime. The continuous mountain range released terrifying gravity and pressure, shackling Su Fang's Dharmakaya. The Mist Barbarians were good at defense. It did not mean that they did not have the ability to attack. On the contrary, the Mist Barbarians' offensive Dharmakaya was equally amazing. Boom, boom, boom. One mountain peak after another surged towards Su Fang like stormy waves, trying to crush Su Fang into powder. Qi Tian Dharmakaya, deprive him of his innate ability. Su Fang released his Qi Tian Dharmakaya and released the supreme heavenly Tao might that could deprive a cultivator of his innate ability. What kind of Dharmakaya is this? It can deprive me of my innate ability. The Mist Barbarian Immortal Realm Cultivator was shocked to find that his innate ability was being devoured by the Qi Tian Dharmakaya at an astonishing speed. The mountains that were surging like a tide also became blurry and shattered layer by layer. Kuan-Gen Mountain, impenetrable by all Dharmakaya. A black Xian Guang flew out from the Tao Palace of the Mist Barbarian Immortal Realm Cultivator. It turned into a black mountain peak that hovered above his head and released its Dharmakaya to form a barrier. The Xian Guang was actually a primordial heavenly treasure. Moreover, it was a primordial heavenly treasure that was born in the chaos. Its power was not inferior to the longevity lamp. Mountain. The power of the Xian Guang blocked the Qi Tian Dharmakaya's attack. It could no longer pose any threat to the Mist Barbarian Immortal Realm Cultivator. Su Fang, you have a primordial heavenly treasure. Do you think I don't have one? The Mist Barbarian race is a large race that has eternal existences. How can you imagine how powerful it is? Not only will I kill your Dharmakaya and free the Mist Barbarian race from the Rezegu people's slave imprint, I will also take back everything that the Rezegu people robbed from us. The Mist Barbarian Immortal Realm Cultivator was protected by the primordial heavenly treasure. He immediately let out a burst of arrogant laughter. An aura surged out of his body and merged with the primordial heavenly treasure's Kuan-Gen Mountain. Boom, 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 boom. His body began to grow crazily. The muscles on his body bulged rapidly and became as hard as rock. Soon, he transformed into a giant that was thousands of feet tall. He looked like a towering mountain. Then, he took a big step forward and charged towards Su Fang. With every step he took, there would be a loud rumble. The entire time and space of the battle of techniques would also shake. The Mist Barbarian Immortal Realm Cultivator actually gave the Kuan-Gen Mountain to this person. Su Fang is in trouble this time. The guardian of Tongtian Island frowned. He released his consciousness into the space of the battle of techniques and stabilized the enchantment. It's an extraordinary primordial heavenly treasure. It's a pity that you didn't merge with it. Instead, you used the power of your bloodline to barely activate it. You can't even activate 1/10 of its power. How dare you try to kill my Dharmakaya? Su Fang was forced to retreat under the pressure of the Mist Barbarian Immortal Realm Cultivator's majestic aura. However, there was no panic in his eyes. Instead, there was disdain. Su Fang released his purple luck Dharmakaya. The spider also flashed out of the Taoist palace. The purple luck above the Dharmakaya rolled. The purple luck heavenly dragon let out an earth-shattering roar. A supreme divine power that controlled the Xian Bao enveloped the Kuan-Zhen mountain, causing the primordial heavenly treasure to shake violently. Although the purple luck Dharmakaya couldn't directly control a primordial heavenly treasure, it was able to suppress the divine power of the Kuan-Zhen mountain. The mist barbarian immortal realm cultivator was already struggling to control the Kuan-Zhen mountain. Under the power of the purple luck Dharmakaya, he suddenly felt that the primordial heavenly treasure was about to go out of control. Kuan, the divine power of the Kuan-Zhen mountain, was quickly suppressed. The mist barbarian immortal realm cultivator's body also began to shrink rapidly. The time spider began to spit out silk threads. They seeped into the mist barbarian immortal realm cultivator's fate energy and crazily devoured his fate energy. At the same time, it brought him terrifying calamity and bad luck. His body began to rot from the inside out. His body's defense was indeed amazing. It was known to be invulnerable. However, it couldn't defend against the attacks of fate energy. His fate energy was being devoured, and his body began to deteriorate rapidly under the attacks of the time spider. Buzz buzz. Buzz under the control of Su Fang's purple luck Dharmakaya, the mist barbarian immortal realm cultivator completely lost control of the Kuan-Zhen mountain. The Kuan-Zhen mountain struggled violently and slowly moved towards Su Fang. Seeing that the mist barbarian immortal realm cultivator was about to be suppressed by Su Fang and the primordial heavenly treasure was about to be snatched by Su Fang, the people outside the battle of technique space-time were all shocked and exclaimed, "Su Fang actually has the ability to devour a cultivator's fate energy. The time spider can devour the fate energy of a race. It's one of the most evil life forms in the chaos." Chapter 33:10. When the Tensei people and the Qianyuan Undying saw the purple fate body and the spider, they couldn't help but feel hatred. Su Fangzheng was able to grow to such a height because of the spider and the purple fate body. How could the Undying of the two races not hate him? The mist barbarian Undying realm warrior's thunderous roar came from outside Clear Sky Island. "Su Fang, stop!" Fang looked at the Undying of the mist barbarian race and sneered disdainfully. "Do you think I'll stop just because you asked me to?" The Undying of the mist barbarian race snorted. "Let go of my clansmen, and the mist barbarian race will lose this battle. He said he wanted to kill me. Now that he's in my hands, you want me to let him go? How can I let him go so easily? Don't forget that this battle is a life and death battle." Fang let out a cold laugh and mercilessly struck out to kill. Roar. The purple fate dragon above the purple fate body roared and started to devour the fate of the mist barbarian challenger. Double the mist barbarian challenger's luck was quickly devoured by the purple fate avatar and the luck spiders. An extremely terrifying and inescapable principle of the heavenly Tao, as well as a terrifying divine might that was spurned and rejected by the heavenly Tao, blessed the challenger from the mist barbarian race. His body started to wither and collapse. In less than 10 breaths, he became a rotten corpse. "Su Fang, how dare you kill my clansmen in front of me? I'll kill you!" The Undying of the mist barbarian race was completely enraged. His roar echoed throughout Tongtian Island like the sound of way of heaven. Just as he was about to attack, the guardian of Tongtian Island said indifferently, "Undying of the mist barbarian race, do you not respect me and want to provoke me?" The Undying of the mist barbarian race snorted coldly. Although he was filled with anger, he had to suppress it. He waved his hand and grabbed the air, taking Kuan-Zhen Mountain away from the battle space. Kuan-Zhen Mountain was his primordial heavenly treasure, so Su Fang couldn't take it for himself. Tong the protector of Sky Island didn't stop him either. The primordial heavenly treasure was extremely important to an Undying warrior. The mist barbarian undying warrior couldn't just watch his primordial heavenly treasure fall into Su Fang's hands. Su Fang's gaze pierced through the barrier and landed on the 13 slave clans on the mountain peak. Is there anyone else who wants to die? Of the 13 slave clans cultivators who challenged Su Fang, only 4 were left. Other than the lion-masked warrior from the intimidating soul race, the other 3 were trembling as they looked at the undying warriors outside of Tong Tian Island for help. Tian the Universe and Heaven Yuan Undyings had promised them beforehand that as long as they were willing to challenge Su Fang, they would try to kill Su Fang and get rid of their slave imprint. They had even promised to give them a portion of the Reizegu people's inheritance resources. Little did they know the Immortal Realm experts from the Tensei people and Qianyuan clan stood with their hands clasped behind their back. They looked indifferent and had no intention of helping. The 3 challengers from the 13 slave clans finally realized that they had been tricked by the Undying expert. Inside, in the eyes of the Undying experts, they were just pawns. When they needed them, they would be used. When they didn't need them, they would be thrown away without hesitation. The challenger suddenly cupped his fists towards Su Fang and shouted loudly, "I admit defeat. I give up on this battle." Admit defeat? Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. However, Hoba said domineeringly, just admitting defeat isn't enough. This isn't a normal competition. It's a battle of life and death that concerns the fate of an entire race. Other than admitting defeat, you have to swear that you and your race will continue to submit to me and be my slaves for generations to come. The challenger gritted his teeth and shouted, "You, Su Fang, don't be unforgiving." Unforgiving? Su Fang sneered coldly. You were originally the Reizegu people's slave clan. I've obtained the Reizegu people's inheritance. Naturally, you all became my slaves. And you all betrayed your master because of someone else's instigation. How could I forgive you? The challenger hesitated. Su Fang sneered. It's fine if you don't want to submit. At most, I'll kill you and spend some effort to control your bloodline and fate with the blood talisman. At that time, you'll have to submit even if you don't want to. If you submit now, not only can you live, I'll also consider your position among the slave clans in the future. I'm the master of the 1,000 Puppets clan. I'm willing to continue to submit to master and be your slave for generations to come. The cultivator also knew that he couldn't win against Su Fang. The other 2 challengers hesitated for a while before kneeling towards Su Fang. You still want to fight with me? Su Fang asked. His cold eyes looked at the only slave clan warrior who didn't submit. It was the lion-faced warrior from the Spirit clan. I'm Lion Roar. In order to protect the future of the Spirit clan, I'd rather die fighting with you. The lion-faced warrior roared and charged into the battle space with monstrous ferocity. Su Fang stared at the lion-faced warrior and said indifferently, You only want to betray the Reizegu people because the Tensei people and the Qianyuan clan promised you some benefits. Yet you say it's for the future of the Spirit clan. What a joke! The lion-faced warrior roared, The Reizegu people have long since perished. I took the Spirit clan to another higher race for the future of the entire clan. You're just a human cultivator. Even if you have immortal strength, what qualifications do you have to be the master of my clan? Su Fang's cold eyes seemed to be able to see through the lion-faced warrior's heart. I can understand that the Spirit clan wants to break free from being enslaved by other powers. However, you colluded with my enemies and betrayed your former master. You even tried to divide the inheritance of the Reizegu people. How can I tolerate that? You stayed until the end to challenge me. You must have some trump card. Take it out or you won't have the chance to use it. You were able to complete the eternal heavenly road. If I kill you, not only will I obtain great benefits, but I will also become famous. Su Fang die. The lion-faced warrior roared angrily. Sha. That. In. The sound waves shook space and time. Wherever they went, space and time shattered layer by layer. Boom. In the impact of the sound waves, phantoms of monsters quickly condensed. They were like thousands of soldiers and horses, emitting a terrifying aura that could swallow heaven and earth. They rolled toward Su Fang. Ru. The power of this sound wave attack was truly shocking. Not only that, but the sound waves also contained the power to attack the soul. When the lion's roar entered Su Fang's mind, his soul shook violently. At the same time, the sound wave attack contained a terrifying willpower attack. It made all living things tremble in fear and their Tao heart collapse. Not bad, but it's a pity that you're far from enough to compete with me. Su Fang revealed a domineering smile and waved his hand to grab the supreme battle flag. Look, when he saw that Su Fang's soul and willpower were not affected at all, the lion-faced warrior's expression changed slightly. When he saw the supreme battle flag again, the lion-faced warrior's expression changed again. His eyes were full of awe and fear. Whoosh, whoosh. The battle flag fluttered in the air above Su Fang, and a terrifying aura of slaughter and war surged out. In an instant, it covered the entire battle spacetime, turning it into a battlefield. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless phantoms with monstrous killing intent rushed out of the supreme battle flag and clashed with the monster phantoms formed by the lion-faced warrior's sound wave. Although it was only a confrontation between two people, from the outside, it looked like two armies were fighting. It was earth-shattering, and the killing intent was monstrous. No. In less than half an hour, the supreme battle flag's divine power swept away all the monster phantoms. The supreme battle flag was a grand mist heavenly treasure. It had absorbed the fighting intent and killing intent of countless experts. How could the lion-faced warrior's divine power compare to it? Su Fang, go to hell. The lion-faced warrior suddenly grabbed a rune talisman and activated it. In an instant, a terrifying supreme truth and power that caused the heavenly Tao to fall into a state of eternal stillness erupted from the crushed rune talisman. The entire space-time instantly fell into a state of stillness. Eternal instant talisman. Not a single. And it was not the eternal instant talisman created by an ordinary expert, but by an immortal expert. It was equivalent to an all-out attack from an immortal expert. Eternal instant talisman? Su Fang's pupils suddenly shrank. Only then did he realize that this was the conspiracy of the Tensei people. Outside the battle space, the guardian of Tongtian Island raised his white eyebrows and snorted coldly. Tensei people, you've gone too far this time. That's the Tensei people's eternal instant talisman. I didn't expect the leader of the Ling clan to have such a powerful rune talisman. There's no suspense in this battle. No matter how heaven-defying Su Fang is, can he fight against an immortal expert? Let's see how he'll die this time. As long as we can defeat Su Fang, even if it's just killing his Dharmakaya, the Ling clan will be freed from the slavery of the Reizeigu people. The foreign race cultivators outside Tongtian Island, especially those from the Ling clan, immediately cheered excitedly. High in the air, the seventh forefather of the Tensei people snorted inexplicably. Let's see how you're going to break the rune talisman that I personally created. During the battle, Su Fang was shackled by the power of the eternal instant talisman. Everything fell into a state of stillness. The lion-faced expert laughed complacently. His figure flashed, and like a peerless ferocious beast, he charged in front of Su Fang. Then, he opened his mouth, revealing his ferocious fangs, and was about to deliver a fatal blow to Su Fang. God! No face in the face of life and death, Su Fang's eyes did not show the slightest panic or despair. Instead, there was mockery, as if he was looking at a person who was about to die. The lion-faced expert's heart skipped a beat. That's it. At this moment, the fate of the lion-faced powerhouse suddenly exploded with a clap of thunder. Origin it was Su Fang's Tianming Dharmakaya. The eternal instant talisman, created by the seventh forefather of the Tensei people, was indeed powerful. Even if Su Fang's original body was here, It would be difficult to easily break the power of the eternal instant talisman created by an immortal expert by using the great returning to ruins technique and the great creation technique. However, no matter how powerful the great Tao of time was, it could not shackle the fate of nothingness. Su Fang, while Fang's blood evil Dharmakaya was shackled, the Tianming Dharmakaya quietly appeared and delivered a fatal blow to the lion-faced expert at the critical moment. The fate of the lion-faced expert began to burn, collapsing layer by layer. Fate.